Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Tuesday afternoon. Live at 580WIBW.com and on our live video stream, which you can find on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski with you today. Spencer Dupuis may be along in a bit. We're all here. The gang is all here. We made it to the radio station today. Be lying if I told you there weren't some pitfalls along the way today. Brendan, you were able to dig out today. You had to get out of your driveway today. You feeling good? You make it out okay? No worries?
Yeah, no, I made it out okay. Kind of strained my back a little bit. Remember yesterday during the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly when I told you about accidentally leaving my wife's car window cracked open on Saturday night?
Yeah.
One, the sunshine is helping melt some things, not everything. There's still snow on the passenger seat and on the floor of the car. The other thing, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, we were talking about just some home improvement stuff. My wife asked me as we're running through, do we need this? Do we need this? What do we need to improve? We're getting a new fridge, for example.
Okay.
She's running through some stuff. She asked if we needed a snow shovel. We don't have one. And I said, nah, probably not. So guess who shoveled an entire driveway, front step, and then walking area connecting the two with a garden shovel?
Well, I mean, that's not a bad option.
No,
I've heard
it's
worse.
not. It's a better option if you're not 6'4".
Yeah.
Also, if you didn't get.
Oh, you're not talking about like a one with a long handle. You're talking about like a little like.
No, I'm talking about like they're gonna put some peonies over there in the corner, like dig out some dirt.
A spade is what you're telling
essentially.
me.
Yeah, a spade. That's what I was shoveling our entire driveway with.
Brendan, you could have called me, man. I would have brought my shovel over.
In fairness, I also could have just walked next door or across the street where I knew my neighbors had shovels because I saw them using it. I just didn't.
Mark B in the YouTube chat said this is Brendan's on second thought for the week.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Not fantastic.
So I can tell part of my story from today where when I was out on the road, one of my wife's friends, her car was pretty stuck in her apartment complexes because she parked next to the handicap spot, and that's where they piled a bunch of snow. And she didn't have a shovel either. She was using a mop bucket to get her car clear,
to bail out snow,
basically to get snow and just kind of bail it out, and using it as a shovel essentially. So when I had the occasion, I threw my shovel in the car. I've been driving my wife's car around and headed down to her apartment, and she had done yeoman's work with that mop bucket, but I was able to help her finish, make sure her tires were clear, and make sure that she could get out if she had to go to work tomorrow, which as an employee of TPS 501, she does not. Go to 580WIBW.com for more information about closings throughout the day, but I can confirm TPS 501, no school tomorrow. Anyway, if that's breaking news for some of you and your kids are excited and you're thinking, oh my God, when will winter break end?
Never.
Yeah, it will never end. This is the never-ending winter break. Anyhow, while I'm over there, I'm finishing with my wife's friend's car, and I noticed 2 spots over, there's a gentleman who is trying to dig his parking spot so he can get back in to his parking spot, and he's using a scraper. He's using a car like a windshield scraper. And I said, well, that's not going to be very effective. So I walked my shovel over there, and I started helping him dig a path back into his parking spot. We got him into his parking spot. So I felt pretty good about that. That was my second good deed of the day, because I also helped. There were 2 cars that were stuck in the entrance from the major street that we live off of and their neighborhood, like a block north of where I enter my neighborhood. There were 2 cars stuck at once, and I went with my shovel and assisted about 3-4 other people getting those folks free after somebody had to free me because I was unable to get back into the neighborhood after I easily got out this morning. So I've had a day. And
sounds like it.
I am just now starting to understand just how sore I am from having done all the shoveling I did yesterday, which full sidewalk and driveway shoveling, and then putting in some of the work that I put in today. I was sitting in my office about 15 minutes before showtime thinking, man, I'm sore. Like my arms are tired. My forearms are sore. My back is sore. I really got a workout in today, but it feels good to help people. You know, in the moment, it does feel good to help, even in a small way. And it feels really embarrassing to have to be helped. But shout out to the neighbor who just happened to be doing his driveway and saw me. Pro tip from your buddy Dan, if you do have to be out today. Number one, if you're thinking about, oh, yeah, it looks like I can get out of my neighborhood just fine. Yeah, good luck getting back in is what I will say to you. It's not as easy as it looks. You really have to take that turn back into your residential street if it has not been plowed. You can't round it. You have to take it like an L turn. You really have to make sure that your wheels are parallel, because if you try and round it, that's where you're going to get stuck and high centered and stuck. So a pro tip from your buddy, Dan. Don't never say I didn't do anything for you. That's if you do have to get out there into the world today. The main roads are fine. Again, city and county have done an outstanding job making sure the main roads and the interstates are clear and the highways, and that's outstanding. But many of you are still waiting on plows in your neighborhoods. And if you are among those, just know you might be able to get out. Getting back in, you got to be real careful, or you better hope that your neighbor is watching you fail with a shovel in his hand. So that is here endeth the lesson on 580 Snowstorm Talk here on this Tuesday afternoon. We are going to get into some sports today. There's plenty to discuss. Lots of dumb Chiefs takes percolating in the wild lately. We talked about the idea that the Chiefs owed the Bengals or Dolphins a better effort than they themselves gave on Sunday, and debunked that nonsense. The other one I want to handle today is the idea that the Chiefs have to worry about rust. Since they won't have played a real football game, their starters will not have played a real game and faced live fire since Christmas Day when they do eventually play. I suspect, based on how the playoffs, the games got arranged for Wild Card Weekend, I think the Chiefs are going to play Saturday primetime. I think that's going to be their spot. I think they're going to play the 18th. I think they're going to play in the primetime Saturday night game. I do not think they're going to play on Sunday, because I think the 1 seed is going to play Sunday in the NFC, and I don't think they're going to have both the 1 seeds on the same day. So that is just a guess, but it's an educated one, that it will have been since Christmas when the Chiefs do get back out onto the field. And the idea of, oh, they're going to be rusty because they've had all this time off, I think it's nonsense, and I will explain why. We'll also take a look at the 6 Wild Card Weekend matchups and rank them by most to least compelling, most to least interesting. Which of these games are we fired up to watch on this Wild Card Weekend? Which of these games are we going to go see if a neighbor needs to be dug out of their driveway still this weekend? We'll rank the first round matchups. And I'll just say this right now, Brendan. This feels like a really good Wild Card Weekend, all things considered. Like, there have been a couple of years recently, especially since the advent of the number 7 seed, which has typically been a team that really doesn't belong in the playoffs. I think this is our best group of 7 seeds that we've had since the playoff expanded, with Denver in the AFC and Green Bay in the NFC. I'm not like bullish on Denver's chances of going to Buffalo and winning, but just in terms of like the quality of the teams that we're talking about here, I think it's the best group of 7 seeds we've had, and that makes for a more compelling 6-game schedule.
Am I correct in remembering that the 2021 first ever edition of the 17 playoff field was that horrific? No, it must have been the year after. It must have been 22. The year that the Bears were the 7 seed against the Saints. I think it was the first Nickelodeon game.
Ah, yes, the Nickelodeon game.
Yeah, okay, it was 2020, excuse me. It was the COVID season, 2020.
Yes, that was the COVID year.
21-9 was the final score of that one. That's probably the worst playoff game on paper that I can remember. Like, no, there's no chance this game is even going to be interesting, let alone like competitive. We've come a long way since then. I mean,
yeah, like 2021 was the first year we had the 7 seed. And the 7 seeds that year were the Eagles, who got smoked by the Buccaneers, and the Steelers, who got annihilated by the Chiefs. Like, non-competitive football game.
The year before, actually. It was 20, because the Bears were the 7 seed and the Colts were the 7 seed that year.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh, so My mistake. That 2021 was the first 17 game schedule. Yeah.
It would have been much more helpful if you're going to put in new rules we didn't need if you made them all happen at the same time, NFL, but I digress.
For future reference.
So, we've come a long way, but I mean, very few people are going to pick Denver to actually beat Buffalo, but that should be it's an interesting game at the absolute least. I think it's going to be at least relatively competitive. Philadelphia is a deserved favorite over Green Bay, but like if both teams are playing at their best, if you get the best version of Green Bay, which without Christian Watson is tough, but you get the best version of Green Bay, can they win that game?
Sure.
Yes, absolutely they can. Certain advanced metrics think Green Bay is just as good as Philadelphia, Detroit, Minnesota, like all even almost. So, I think this is going to be a really fun weekend. There's only one game that you look at on the schedule, or no, we avoided the one game that could have been truly awful, I should say. Had Pittsburgh gotten the 5 seed, that would have been the
bad vibe Super Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, go get some cleaning done game. Texans Steelers would have been awful. But no, we actually get a lot of fun, interesting matchups. The Steelers are probably going to get their ass kicked, but at least it's a rivalry game.
Yeah.
And they usually play Baltimore pretty tough. Chargers Texans, I think, has plenty of intrigue with it. So no, we ended up with a really good schedule. It's a full entertaining weekend. I am a little surprised that Commanders Bucks ended up on Sunday night, though. I will admit that. Little surprising that's the Sunday night game.
Yeah. I think maybe the priorities ended up being the Monday night and the prime game.
Yep.
Maybe got the first crack at who they wanted, because last year Peacock got the Chiefs. So,
I was going to say, I knew that Prime was going to get a big fan base.
Yeah.
Knew that they were going to get it.
Yeah. If you're not aware, Amazon Prime is broadcasting exclusively Ravens Steelers. So if you want to watch that, you have to have a Prime hookup for that one on Saturday night. Anyway, we'll rank all those games coming up later on in the show. We'll ask Matt Verderame what he thinks. Our NFL insider obviously wasn't able to join us yesterday. If you missed yesterday's show, it was a snowed-in edition of the program. We were doing the show from our homes, and so not able to patch through phone calls. But Matt Verderame will join us today here at the bottom of this first hour. We will talk to Matt, get his thoughts on what's going on in the NFL heading into Wild Card Weekend. We'll also have Jayhawk Weekly, as we always do on Tuesday. Been a minute since we chatted with Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Looking forward to getting Michael's thoughts on KU coming off of their 51-point beatdown of UCF on Sunday, and looking ahead to another strange matchup. You don't understand how weird these games are in the new league until you see them on paper and you see them coming up and, oh yeah, Arizona State's a league game. It's going to be weird for a little bit. Anyway, Arizona State's a league game. They're coming to Allen Fieldhouse on Wednesday night. We'll get some thoughts on that, as well as all the other things happening with regards to KU athletics with Michael Swain at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We're getting to some Royals baseball today. They signed Michael Lorenzen yesterday. That news broke on our headline segment, so we'll flesh out some thoughts on Michael Lorenzen returning to the Royals, what that means for their rotation. Also, K-State hoops tonight against Oklahoma State. They are playing at, what do you call it, Brendan? Gallagher-Iba Arena? What do you call it?
America's favorite wrestling gymnasium.
America's favorite wrestling gymnasium. I couldn't remember if it was favorite or finest. I want to give you a chance. Anyway, America's favorite wrestling gymnasium, playing host to some Catsketball tonight. K-State, Oklahoma State. Absolutely a must-win for the Wildcats.
Man, I think K-State's going to win, and I think K-State might win by double figures, even on the road. That being said, if K-State does not win this game, I'm willing to say it. I'm hitting the panic button on head coach Jerome Tang. Dude, this Oklahoma State team
is really bad.
Like, I think Steve Lutz is a good coach. This is year 0. Oklahoma State is in year 0.
Yes, correct.
Because Mike Boynton, he let that train fall off the tracks completely. If this K-State team, even with disjointed talent, cannot win with its talent against this Oklahoma State team, I am extremely worried.
We will break that down a little bit later on the show. You'll be able to hear that game tonight right here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, FM 104.9 and 580 WIBW. Pre-game coverage right when we're done, 6 o'clock, tip-off at 7. Also, all the other things you've come to know and love from an edition of 580 Sports Talk. We got our sports headlines, top of the 5 o'clock hour. What is wrong with you in the 4 o'clock hour? We'll do some Random Question Tuesday here in a bit as well. And your comments Join us in the YouTube live chat. If you're watching the YouTube live stream on our channel, 580 Sports Talk, there's a live chat feature. Jump on in. If you're watching on your browser or your mobile device, interact with us and your fellow listeners. You can also text the program today. Send us a text, 785-272-9429 is the text line number. That's 785-272-9429. Among the reasons that people were critical, some people were critical of the Chiefs' decision to essentially treat Sunday's regular season finale against the Broncos like a preseason game, was this idea that it's too long to not play a competitive game and the Chiefs run the risk of some rust. I just don't buy that in any capacity. The Chiefs are going to have some extra time off. Like we mentioned, it's 4 extra days, right? Than it would have been if they played a regular week 17 game on a Sunday night or a Sunday afternoon, let's say, because they had the Christmas Day game for week 17. So they get 4 extra days plus a week, and then they play. That's a long time. It is a long time to not play football. It's true. But the reason I don't buy the rust argument is because Andy Reid's been in this spot before and has gotten teams ready to play in the playoffs. These Chiefs have been in this spot before and they were ready to play and went to a Super Bowl. And I just trust a veteran team and trust a veteran coach to be ready to play when the divisional round rolls along. Back in 2004, this is early days Andy Reid. This is Andy Reid before he was Andy Reid. This was Andy Reid before we knew he was going to Canton one day. In 2004, the Philadelphia Eagles were 13-1. With 2 weeks left in the regular season, they'd locked up a first-round bye in the NFC playoffs. Week 15, or their 15th game, basically treated it like a preseason game. Donovan McNabb threw 3 passes. They played the starters for like a quarter. And then they put in, I think it was Coy Detmer and Jeff Blake were QB 2 and 3 on that Eagles team in 2004. They ended up losing that game. And then they didn't play any of the starters in week 17, and they got pasted again. So they went from 13-1 to 13-3, and they didn't play, obviously, in the wild card round. And it affected those Eagles not one single iota because they went to the Super Bowl and lost by 3 points to, you could argue, the best Patriot team of that team that won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. So did rust kick in for an Eagles team that essentially had 2, maybe even 3 full weeks off before they started playing the playoffs? No, it did not. Did the rest hurt the Chiefs in 2020, which is the only time in the Reid era where they've sat the starters before the bye? Like last year, they sat the starters, but they didn't have the first round bye. They played in the wild card round last year. They were the 2 seed. 2020 was the only time that they had a bye and didn't go at it in the final week of the regular season. The Chiefs went to the Super Bowl that year, too. And if you even want to look at the macro and just say, well, how did they perform in the divisional round game? The only reason Cleveland hung around for 60 minutes in that divisional game in 2020 is because Patrick Mahomes got hurt. Let's be real honest about that. That's the anything is possible game. That certainly impacted how close that particular game ended up being. So we have 2 examples here. One for this head coach, one for this core group of Chiefs, that the rest is more important than this concept of rust. And I don't know why you wouldn't trust this coaching staff, this head coach, and these veteran players who, if any team can benefit from 4 extra days, 1 extra week of full rest from playing football, wouldn't it be a team that has just gone through a gauntlet the likes of which no other Super Bowl contender has had to go through in league history, having to play 3 games in 11 days in December with their bye week all the way back in week 6, a distant memory? I just don't know why you wouldn't trust that the rest outweighs the concept of rust with this group. And I just think it's another nonsense argument just to fill airspace.
Yeah, because people are bored. Seriously, like if you're outside of the Chiefs fandom, the Chiefs aren't interesting, but they're the best team. So you have to talk about them, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're not. Some teams are good and interesting, like the Chiefs from 2018 through
2022.
Yeah, even a little bit into last year because you did the same like ooh, is Mahomes actually being carried by his defense narratives for like half the year, and then the offense played well and they won the Super Bowl. They're not interesting, though. Like, if you're trying to fill airtime outside of godforsaken Nick Wright on FS1, who's actually a Chiefs fan, if you're trying to fill airtime and you're supposed to talk about the best team in the NFL, what are you going to say? Oh, yeah, the Chiefs are just methodically going to beat someone into a pulp, win a game 21-17, 3 straight weeks, and win the Super Bowl, and that's it. Like, I can say that, and y'all get excited because, hell yeah, 3rd straight Super Bowl. Awesome, great. If you're Joe Bob in Fresno, you're like, well, why are you talking about these dumb Chiefs? I don't want to hear about that. You got to stir something up. That's where that's all it is. This ain't the college football playoff, guys. This is not, all the teams that got the first round bye are going to get bounced out early. This is different. This is the NFL. This is Andy Reid. This is Patrick Mahomes. This is the best roster in the league. I would much rather have Travis Kelce be completely fresh at this stage of his career than not. I'd much rather have Chris Jones at this stage of his career be completely fresh as opposed to not. Like, Patrick Mahomes took a beating this year, like he has very rarely taken a beating in his entire career. I have no problem with him not getting hit in the legs 15 more times. I'm good with that. Why shouldn't you be? So no, I think it's nonsense. I'm not worried about it. If the Chiefs lose the first game of the postseason, which, I mean, they could, in theory, like if Chargers, let's say, are the lowest remaining seed, right? They're the 5 seed, or the Broncos. Let's say the Broncos upset the Bills. Okay, probably not going to happen. Let's say it happens. Broncos are probably going to play the Chiefs tough.
They have for the last 3 years.
Yeah, they're probably going to play tough. That's going to be competitive. They know this Chiefs team. Sean Payton knows Andy Reid. Say the Chiefs lose that game, just hypothetically. You're going to hear, oh, they should have played. No, wrong. Incorrect. I'm just telling you now, 2 weeks in advance. Wrong. Right. If you believe that, no, incorrect. That's not why they're going to lose. Game plan, poor play, poor execution, Andy Reid, goofiness, all possibilities. It's not going to be because they took an extra week off.
It will not be because a team that notoriously practices harder than like any other team in the league forgot how to play football over a 3.5 week stretch.
There's one team that is running like a 90s training camp still.
Yeah.
And it's the Chiefs. They've been at it for a long time, and they had their bye week really early.
Yeah, so even more beneficial. Like, even if there was like a concrete effect that not playing football for 3.5 weeks obviously had, even if we had piles of evidence that showed that actually it's bad to take that much time off and go out and play a football game, I would still argue that would be outweighed by the fact that these guys who played so much football the last 3 years, because they've made these deep playoff runs. They've gone to the Super Bowl in back-to-back years. Not just the last 3 years, last 6. We're in 6 straight AFC title games. That's at minimum 2 additional games every single year that this core group of guys is playing. The rest for them, coming off of that stretch with 3 games in 11 days, is still more valuable. I don't care what empirical data you could possibly show me about the impact of quote-unquote rust. This team needed rest. They got it. They earned it, and I think they're going to benefit from it. We're going to take a quick time out here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, a little short round of Random Question Tuesday before Matt Verderame joins us on 580 WIBW. round of Random Question Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, what is the best snow day activity for the youngsters out there who have maybe had 2 in a row, might be headed for a 3rd snow day in a row? Think like a kid here. What's the best snow day activity?
Sleeping till 10 a.m. Doing no activity at all, in fact. Sleeping till 10 a.m. and drinking hot chocolate all day.
Yeah, I was thinking like along the lines of like snowball fights or sledding. My vote is for sledding. You got a good hill in the neighborhood. Nothing beats just getting up and down the hill and sledding. Somebody's going to be able to jump. Like, that's always a good time.
We always enjoyed snow football when I was growing up. We go play in the snow. That was always the best.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got enough kids in the neighborhood get out and sling the old pigskin around.
Not necessarily on a snow day, but a good friend of mine growing up, his house backed up against this big open field. And his birthday was always, I think, right after Christmas, if I remember correctly. So his birthday party, quote unquote, was just getting a ton of dudes over and playing like actual 11-on-11 football in the field. And it always snowed. It was awesome. Like, he checked the Farmer's Almanac for it. This went viral on Twitter right before Christmas, if I remember correctly. Who's more famous, Scooby-Doo or Snoopy?
More famous?
More famous.
Snoopy.
Yeah. People disagreed on Twitter.
That's insane.
I agree.
I know there were like, oh, hi, Spencer.
Hi, Spencer.
Spencer Dupuis appearing from out of nowhere.
From the clouds. I had no idea that you were turning a microphone on. No, yeah, with you. I had no idea. I did see Spencer walk in. That is true.
From the rafters. No, I know Scooby-Doo's got the movies, but like Snoopy is everywhere.
Snoopy has a giant statue at the Mall of America. Man, I'm a Snoopy guy all the way.
Yeah, I'm on Team Snoopy 1,000%.
Snoopy is in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yes, he is.
What Hall of Fame is Scooby in? The Munchies Hall of Fame? Please.
Pothead Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Yeah, him and his
dopehead.
Him and his no account owner Shaggy.
Yeah, get a job, you bums, you burnout.
Snoopy flew missions in the Sopwith Camel. Snoopy was an author. Snoopy won the house, the Christmas lights decoration contest in A Charlie Brown Christmas.
Snoopy became friends with the Red Baron during World War I.
Snoopy is a good outfielder and a good clubhouse presence on your neighborhood baseball team. Yeah.
Scooby-Doo more famous.
Absolutely on Team Snoopy. Get Ruby-Doo up on right rear. That's what I would say in a language he can understand. Snoopy's the man. Anyway, or you know who else is the man? Matt Verderame. He's going to join us after we take this time out. You're listening to 580 Sports Talk. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is our NFL insider, Matt Verderame, covers the league for Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Also has his own subscriber-only Patreon, The Matt Verderame Show, where you can get his outstanding insight and insider information. For more information on that, check him out on Twitter, Matt Verderame. Typically joins us Mondays, but gracious enough to be flexible and join us on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Matt, the only question worth asking, I think, from that Chiefs-Broncos game on Sunday, did DJ Humphries put enough on tape to make you feel comfortable if he's the guy to start at left tackle for the Chiefs when the divisional round rolls along? Or do you think they ought to stick with what worked when they were starting to click before Week 18 and just stay with Joe Thuney on the outside?
I think it's kind of the hardest answer. I think it's borderline. Like, I thought there were some reps he had that were rough. I thought there were some, really good reps. I thought it was more good than bad. It's also, look, it's hard, man. You're playing on a line where you haven't worked with any of these guys. And Wentz didn't help matters because he held the ball for an eternity. So that also didn't help. But, look, it's a hard thing to judge. Let's put this. I thought he looked healthy. I would start him in the divisional game. I would. But I would be very honest about the fact that if he struggles at all early in the game, he'd be on the bench. Like, I wouldn't be waiting around. I would be very proactive. I'd play him, but I would let everybody involved know, like, look, it's nothing against you, but if this thing doesn't go well for a couple drives, that's it.
How much input do you think Patrick Mahomes has in that decision?
I think he probably will have some. I know, like, Andy Reid's going to make the call. But I think overall, Mahomes will have input. I mean, at the end of the day, it's his blindside. So I think there will be a discussion. They'll also probably evaluate. Now, probably they will evaluate between then and out practices. But I think, Andy's paid to make the call. But I think in the end, will Pat have some influence? Yeah, he's got to have some. He's got to have a say in it.
Kingsley Suamataia played that game at left guard for the Chiefs and didn't really stand out in a negative way, which was a positive for him, given that he came out of college and a lot of people talked about his physicality as a plus trait for him, the physical nature in which he plays. And given the fact that we all saw how much trouble he had with any kind of speed or hand fighting on the perimeter at a tackle role, do you think there's a chance that guard might be a solution for Kingsley long-term, and the Chiefs playing him there might be a chance to get a look at a spot where you might see him long-term?
I think that Suamataia, look, the biggest issue he had early in the year was his foot speed. He simply got beat around the edge repeatedly. Now, I've said on my podcast, I'll say now, I think that guard might be his future because he's got power. He's athletic. It's not a matter of size. It's not a matter of being able to pull or get out on the edge. That's when he's at his best. I think for the Chiefs, look, you need potentially a starting guard next year. We'll see what they do with Trey Smith. I would imagine they will make a concerted effort to sign him, but he's not going to be cheap. But you need even if they bring him back. Look, Thuney is he's got 1 year left in his deal. We'll see what happens there. They don't have a guard in waiting, so to speak. I don't know that Mike Caliendo's like the future there. So I think he could be a guard for the future. I think they're not going to give up on him being a tackle, but if he ends up being a guard, look, he was a late second round pick. If he ends up being a guard, he's decent. That's fine.
We're chatting with Matt Verderame, who covers the National Football League for SI.com and Sports Illustrated, also the host of the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon and That Football Show at the KC Sports Network. He joins us usually on Mondays to talk all things NFL, but kind enough to join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline today on Tuesday afternoon. We'll get to some of the more other playoff games in a little bit, Matt, but I did want to get to Black Monday and Black Tuesday as well. Coach firings around the NFL. We already knew about a few that were open. A few more jobs are now open. I would like to start with the most recent opening, and that is the one for the Las Vegas Raiders. Earlier this afternoon, like an hour ago, the Raiders fired Antonio Pierce after one full season. Here's the thing. I'm not surprised. He clearly was in over his head. Probably never should have hired him in the first place. Why did they allow him to go talk to the media and wear a bunch of Raiders garb yesterday and have him say, well, I haven't heard differently, and then fire him a day later? What are they doing?
because they're a joke, which is why they haven't. I mean, they're a joke. They haven't won a playoff game in 22 years because they're a joke. They're run terribly. They're run by an owner who inherited the team from his dad. His dad was a football man. Mark Davis is not a football man. Mark Davis is Al Davis' son, who happened to take over a football team and has no common sense. Because anyone who even would think about that situation for 2 seconds would say, yeah, I can't trot this guy out here and make him then look ridiculous by firing him the next day. I'm going to tell you right now, you don't think that's going around in league circles where guys who are prospective coaches are looking at that going, yeah, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there and deal with that kind of an owner and that kind of a situation. It's the same thing in Jacksonville. Like, when they didn't fire Trent Baalke, I can tell you right now, about half those candidates are like, yeah, I don't want that job. Like, that, you are judged in the NFL based on the way you treat people, even more so than in normal jobs, because of how public it is, how visible it is. Your family's affected by it. You know, I mean, I remember Matt Nagy as a story when he got fired in Chicago, or actually before he got fired, right before he got fired. You know, I believe it was his son playing in a football game, like the crowd was booing his kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, it's like that stuff happens to these coaches and their families. And so, like, to trot Antonio Pierce out there, look, he wasn't a good coach. I don't have any problem with them moving off of it. It was clearly not going to work. But you be professionals about it. You be adults about it. And you move on that night or early the next morning. You don't let the guy go out there and give an end-of-the-year presser and then turn around and go, oh, by the way, you're also fired. It's a horrible job by the Raiders.
What would you say is the most attractive opening and the least attractive? I would say the least attractive is Jacksonville, frankly, because I'm right there with you. I'm not working with Trent Baalke. If I'm Ben Johnson, I'd tell them lose my number. Like, I'm not working with Trent Baalke. That'd be least for me. What would be your most and least attractive job openings?
The funny thing is, a lot of people in the NFL will tell you that they thought Ben Johnson, that's where he would have gone. But now this Baalke thing makes it a real uncertainty. All right, let's least attractive. There are some bad jobs. I mean, and look, that's always true every year with these jobs. I mean, it's recent guys get fired, but the Saints job's a terrible job. You have no quarterback. Your cap situation is a total disaster. You know, the Raiders job, for all the reasons I just outlined, they don't have a quarterback. That job, and you're in that division. That job's brutal. I would say the Bears, though. I think the Bears job is a really bad job. And look, you'll look at it and you go, oh, Caleb Williams. Okay, fine. Let's say you love Caleb Williams. A lot of people in the league will sit there and tell you privately they worry about the infrastructure of that organization with Kevin Warren, who's kind of the go-between between the coaching staff and the GM and ownership. Warren's been there a long time, and a lot of people view him as a huge part of the problem there, and he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So there's that. Then there's also Ryan Poles, who I don't know if you caught his press conference this week, but that was not great. So you'll look at that and go, okay, the GM, who knows how long he's got here. And if he gets canned in a year, am I out the door with him? And if not, then they're bringing in a GM that I'm not paired with. Am I really that guy's guy? The best job, I think, is New England in the sense that Drake May, I believe, is a good quarterback. You've got a really high pick. You've got a ton of cap space. That division, I mean, obviously Buffalo is very good, but the Jets are terrible. The Jets also, by the way, are in the running for the worst job. The job's atrocious. The Dolphins are decent. Like, if I'm looking at it from like Ben Johnson's perspective, I'm like, you know what? I'll go coach with Drake May and have $150 million in cap space and a top 3 pick, a top 4 pick. Like, I'm good with it. So I think that job is probably the best job.
I don't know that, you know, we have the time to get into like a real deep conversation here, Matt, about the merits of, you know, minority head coaches in the NFL. You know, I don't think there was any like designed thing, this, you know, collusion to get Gerard Mayo and Antonio Pierce fired, for example. However, I do want to ask you about the Rooney Rule. I think in theory, it's a really good thing. However, like take New England, for example. New England has already completed 2 interviews with minority head coaches. So they have cleared the Rooney Rule. They were Pep Hamilton, who has been an assistant for 1,000,000 years and has barely ever gotten a serious look, and Byron Leftwich, who hasn't coached in 2 seasons. Like, do we need to again retool this rule? Because, I mean, that's a farce. Ron Rivera got multiple interviews. No one's hiring Ron Rivera seriously. Like, do we need to revisit this rule again?
I think the short answer is yes. it's one of those things where I think the intent was good. I think the intent was really pure. The problem is it has now just become a token thing where it's, hey, we've got to satisfy this. Let's do it. Let's get done with it. I think initially the thought was, hey, look, we need more diversity among head coaches. And even if a guy doesn't get hired right off the jump, hey, you're getting in front of people. If you interview well, A, maybe you get that job. B, if nothing else, maybe it really sets you up for a future job. It's a good thing in that regard. The problem is, like you just pointed out, the Patriots, they're not hiring either one of those guys. And those guys know it. Like, it's a joke to do those interviews. And that's nothing against Pep Hamilton and Byron Leftwich. It's just they're not going to be head coaches in this cycle. That's not going to happen. I think that at this juncture, yeah, you gotta look at it. The problem is how do you change it? Other than just scrap it. Like, what do you can't look into somebody's heart and say, well, this is a legitimate interview or this isn't, so on and so forth. It's very difficult. But yeah, I think, look, obviously in that case, the spirit of the rule was not followed, even if the rule itself was.
Couple more questions for Matt Verderame, our NFL insider here on 580 Sports Talk, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. All right, Matt, Wild Card Weekend is coming up. Of the 6 games on the schedule, which one is the most fascinating to you as far as the matchup? Maybe it's stylistically. Maybe you just love how the coaches or the quarterbacks match up. Which game are you the most fired up to see as a fan this weekend?
I think the best game is the Monday night game with Minnesota and LA. I think it's the best game. A lot of offensive firepower, smart coaches, really creative offensively, big-time stars on offense. I think that game has potential to be a great game. The game, though, that I think could be the most interesting game, the game where we're all sitting here at the 2-minute warning going, what is going on in that game, is the Denver-Buffalo game. That, to me, everybody looks at that game and says, oh, Buffalo's going to blow them out. Look, if I have to pick, I think Buffalo's going to find a way to win. I could see that being a very strange game for the Bills because one thing about Denver, they can really cover and they can really get after your quarterback. They had 9 more sacks than anybody else in football this year. They've got inside pressures, outside pressures, up front on offense. They can block. The Bills are not big up front. Denver can run the ball some. The Bills can't stop anybody. And one thing about it, too, the Bills are 29th in the league on third down defensively. If the Broncos can get ahead of the sticks and convert those third down opportunities and hold on to the football, and instead of the Bills having, let's say, 11 possessions as you would in a normal game, you get 8 or 9. Against Denver's defense, you might be looking at like a 21-19 type game. And that is a game that, look, it's impossible for me to pick Bo Nix over Josh Allen, but that is a weird matchup. That is a very strange matchup for Buffalo.
All right, Matt, last one for you. Who's going to the Super Bowl? Based on how the bracket shook out, current form of all the teams, right now as you're sitting here, who's going to play in Super Bowl 59?
I think it's a rematch of Super Bowl 57. I think it's Kansas City and Philadelphia. Now, that assumes Hurts is healthy, but he's healthy. If he's not, I would take Detroit. If he is, I would take Philadelphia. I think those two teams, I think Kansas City's the favorite to win it all again. I think the Chiefs have a pretty favorable draw. Look, they could get the Chargers in the second round. That's always a little bit of a wonky game, but they should beat the Chargers if they play them. And then they're probably going to get the Bills or the Ravens at home. And if they're at home in a night game in Arrowhead Stadium, knowing that if they win, they go to the Super Bowl, I just think that's a rough spot for anybody to go in there and beat this team at this point in their maturation. So give me Kansas City and Philly.
Matt Verderame covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Check out his subscriber-only Patreon, The Matt Verderame Show, and be more informed as an NFL fan. He joins us every week in the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, appreciate you being flexible with us this week, joining us on this Tuesday. Look forward to talking to you next Monday.
Of course. Thanks a lot.
That is Matt Verderame. We'll step aside, come back, wrap up this 3 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk after this. Our thanks again to Matt Verderame for joining us on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. He says Chiefs-Eagles. And during the break, saw the news that the Eagles have waived quarterback Ian Book, which is a minor transaction, but it lends credence to the idea that that Hurts is going to clear protocol and he's going to be good to go for the playoffs. Which,
I'm unmoved. They're going to beat Green Bay anyway, but if I'm the Chiefs, honestly, I'm cool playing the Eagles. I'm cool with that.
The Chiefs, I'm cool playing anybody.
Well, yes, but I think there are certain matchups where you're like, they might put pressure on us in certain ways. Like the Eagles have two really good receivers and a really good tight end. Well, their tight end room has kind of been in flux because Goddard's been hurt. They run the ball really well. They want to run. They want to run a lot. They've got a great offensive line. The Chiefs are really good against the run. In fact, they've been one of the best teams against the run this year and have struggled at times against the pass. And generally speaking, I am okay saying, all right, Jalen Hurts, beat me with your arm.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you this much. Jalen Hurts has not had a game as good in the last 2 years. He has not played a game as good as he played Super Bowl 57.
No, not even close. Not even close.
Awesome
he was unbelievable in that game.
He was
blacked
so
out
good.
for 3.5 hours and gave us the Super Bowl classic. And even that could beat the Chiefs. So,
is that the best Super Bowl that the Chiefs have played in?
Of the three, yeah.
4, I guess. Super Bowl 55 is last.
The three they've won, yes.
Yeah.
In this era, yes.
Yeah.
Playing a lot of Super Bowls. They're all of a sudden, they're rising the ranks of all-time wins and all-time
Andy Reid is getting
played.
really, really close to Don Shula, by the way.
Yes, he is. Coming up next, we'll rank the NFL playoff matchups. We got What Is Wrong With You and Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain coming up next hour. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on a snowed-in Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us on FM 1049, 580 WIBW, 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream. You can catch us on our YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. You can also watch us on Facebook, WIBW News. I am Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski is with me today as well. We are in studio. We made it in safely, but if your residential street hasn't been plowed, I would say don't leave your house still. I would say chill on the idea of leaving your house if you absolutely don't have to. Also, there's nothing for you. Like, I went to the grocery store today. I was in a coffee emergency. As we talked about in yesterday's show, I was low on mud and needed some coffee. And I thought, well, I'll pick up a gallon of milk while I'm out. Nope. Not at the Dillons I went to, buddy.
Remember earlier today when I told you about how I don't have a snow shovel?
Yeah.
And I had to shovel my entire front area of my house with a spade. You know where else they don't have snow shovels? Anywhere.
Yeah.
At all.
Saw somebody walking out of the store I was in with, like, it looked like a child's snow shovel. And it was like, you know, it must be the best you can do on such short notice.
I was tempted to buy a leaf blower and blow the snow around.
See, not a terrible idea while it's drifting, but you got to do it like while it's snowing, because then,
Yeah,
you know,
true.
it freezes. And so we have an electric snow blower.
Nice.
And I said, all right, we're gonna dig this thing out. I'm gonna move some stuff around to get to it. It's in the back of our garage, and that's how I'm gonna do the driveway. I'm gonna do the electric snow blower. So here's the thing about snow blowers: if you get 4, 5, even 6 inches of snow, yeah, man, that the snowblower is God's perfect machine. Doesn't really know what to do with 14 inches is the problem. And so after a lot of going backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards and banging it on the ground to clear the clog in the sprayer, if you will, I finally just said, man, give me a shovel. I'm gonna be out here all day. Just give me a shovel. I'm gonna do this the way my forefathers did it. I'm going to do this the way God intended, with my own 2 hands.
Smart.
And gave up on the blower. But no, the blower, when you have like a normal snowstorm, like not a once every decade, 20-year event snowstorm, the snowblower is a great tool to have.
By the way, just to keep everybody updated, in case you don't already know this, you probably could have guessed at this point. I assume almost every school, if not every school in the area, is going to be closed. You told us 501 is closed tomorrow.
501 is closed. We've heard also that Seaman schools are closed tomorrow. Thank you to Barbara in the YouTube live chat for that information.
Silver Lake also closed.
So to keep you informed on that, go to our website, 580WIBW.com. There is a link at the very top for closings and delays and weather. And so those are submitted throughout. And hopefully that we'll have a strong list of those as we go along today. So we can tell you that Shawnee Heights is closed. That's actually, these are all today. So my apologies. For tomorrow, Shawnee Heights is closed tomorrow. So my mistake. Sorry about that. Abilene, Leavenworth, Manhattan Catholic, USD 380 is delayed tomorrow. 409, 481 also closed for tomorrow. That's what has been posted to our website, and more will go up as the day goes on. So make sure you check 580WIBW.com. We've got closings and alerts for you.
I wish I didn't have to go to school today or work or whatever else.
I
was happy to get out of the house for a little bit.
I was glad to get out of the house too.
Get some cabin fever.
It was nice to be able to get out of the house and be rewarded for that hard work I put in shoveling the drive and the walk. But like I said, I got stuck trying to get back into the neighborhood, coming back from the grocery, and I was hoping I could just kind of spin my way out of it. And then when it came to needing the assistance of a kind neighbor, this is like, this is one of those things I can't like omit to my wife. I'm going to have to admit to her that, yes, I'm 10 minutes late from getting back from the grocery store because I got stuck. I was stupid. And again, take the turn, an L turn. Don't round the turn into your neighborhood onto a snowy road. Get those wheels parallel, particularly if you are not driving one of those giant trucks Like, because one of the vehicles I saw stuck today was a Ford F-150. And I can't tell you what year, maker, or model it was. I can tell you it was within the last 20 years. Like, this is a truck that you would look at and expect, oh, that's not going to have any problem with the snow. But they tried to round the corner, and they got high centered, and they couldn't move. So me and 5 other good Samaritans helped them dig out. So be careful out there.
You ever gotten stuck before?
Like
in the snow?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just today, but, I got, so I was driving back from my buddy's wedding. I was at my best friend's wedding was on a Friday night. And after it was done, I was driving back. This is when I was living, the wedding was in the Denver area. I was living in Western Nebraska at the time, North Platte, Nebraska. So I had a 4-hour drive home, and I was going to make it late. Like, I was probably going to get home I was planning on being home around like midnight. And I had stuff to do the next day for radio. So I wanted to get back and make sure that I could do the work I had to do on the Saturday. Anyhow, about halfway between Denver and North Platte, snowstorm. And the visibility was like 0. And instead of pulling off the road in Sterling and getting a hotel, I'm like, well, I'll just go 20 miles an hour and I'll power through it. And long story short, I lost control of my car. I got sideways and I got onto the shoulder, and my front wheels were in like some grass and I couldn't move. And I had to wait about an hour for a tow truck to get out to me and pull me free, and then had to continue making the drive. A drive that should have taken me 4 hours. I should have been home at midnight. I got back to my apartment at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's gross.
But all-time bad experience in my life.
I shared the story.
I'd be on the air at 8 a.m., so that was fun.
Yeah, yikes. I shared the story last fall coming back from the 8-man state championship down in Newton. I was in our station vehicle. You ever had that snowy, windy ice storm that same day?
Yeah, that I was in Colorado for that Thanksgiving, and it delayed me coming back a day.
Yeah, and skidded off. We had a truck at the time that had kind of a light butt, and it slid off the road on some black ice, and that was unpleasant. I also once was leaving an apartment of a girl I may or may not have been having a thing with in Lawrence. Many years ago now. And I left her apartment, and I couldn't get my little Jetta out of her parking lot, which was slanted upward. I thought, I'm sure there's a way out on the bottom part of it. No, wrong. One entrance, one exit at the top of the slope. And I got stuck halfway up the hill. And her neighbors, not her, she was nowhere to be found. Her neighbors, though, came out and helped push.
Jeez.
They brought cat litter. They brought shovels to help make some space. It was very kind of them all. So shout out to them. no shout out to Morgan.
I hope
she does not get a shout out.
I hope that's a fake name, man.
It's not. But I also guarantee you she's not listening.
Okay, fair enough. See, when I was living in Sterling, Colorado, and somebody that I was seeing got their car stuck next to my house, and my car was free, we got my car over to the Walmart to buy the snow shovel that I did not have at the time. And I, a chivalrous gentleman, dug this woman out.
I did not get such
We should
help.
really move on. Let's talk some football, shall we? We're going to get to what is wrong with you later. I can't believe I said that. Michael Swain of Fog.net is going to join us bottom of the hour on Jayhawk Weekly, and we're going to talk some KU athletics as well. But I wanted to talk about the 6 NFL playoff matchups and rank them in terms of how compelling they are. From I will be there no matter what to this might be when I decide to finally take down the Christmas tree in the front room. Again, to remind you of the games that are upcoming on this upcoming wildcard weekend. Saturday, it's 3:30 Central on Saturday, so it's the Houston Texans. You can always pencil in the Houston Texans, and they will be playing the Los Angeles Chargers. The night game on Amazon Prime, a 7 p.m. kick, Steelers-Ravens. Sunday, the triple header. And by the way, the Sunday triple header, if you can't watch the games, you'll be able to hear all of those games right here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, FM 104.9 and 580 WIBW, with pregame coverage starting at 11 o'clock. Kickoff at noon in Buffalo, Broncos-Bills. Then the 3:30 kickoff is the Packers and the Eagles. The Sunday night game, Commanders at Buccaneers. The Monday night game at 7 o'clock kickoff, also here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, the Vikings and the Rams. So we'll start at the top of the list then, Brendan. Which of these 6 games do you think is the most interesting, the highest potential to be a great game? Which of these 6 wildcard games number 1 on your list?
I don't know if this is a homer pick or not, but I'm going to go Packers-Eagles as number 1. Because, again, I think the Packers at their best are just as good as the Eagles are. Now, missing wide receiver number 1 is not helpful and have not played well the last 2 weeks. But that being said, we know Green Bay is good. We know the Eagles are obviously really good. Jalen Hurts sounds like he's going to be able to go. I'm really excited about that game. I think there's potential for a lot of scoring. You might see Saquon Barkley go crazy. There's certainly a possibility of that. So I'm pretty excited to see that one. I think it's going to be a very competitive game, even if I do think Philadelphia is going to come away with a win.
So I agree with Matt Verderame that Vikings-Rams is the most compelling game of the weekend, and it's the Monday night game. And the reason I think it's Vikings-Rams because I think that game could go a very high point total. It is not the highest over-under of the weekend. That would be Commanders-Buccaneers. But I think Vikings-Rams could be a fireworks show. I think Matt Stafford and Sam Darnold against these respective defenses could put up a ton of yards and a ton of points. I think it's going to be a track meet. And it's 2 teams that I don't expect to make a lot of noise. Like, I think either winner is going to lose in the divisional round and probably fairly comfortably. So I think these are 2 teams that are kind of going to let it hang out. And I think it's going to be a really, really fun Monday night game. That game is number 1 on my list. And for a similar reason, Commanders-Buccaneers is number 2 on my list. That one actually has the highest total of the weekend. 50.5 is a consensus over-under on that game. Obviously, the Commanders have been in a lot of high-scoring games this season. The Buccaneers can certainly score the ball. This is probably an off-season type question, but like, why is Todd Bowles the Buccaneers head coach? If he's the defense guy and their defense is this bad, like, why does he get to keep being the head coach?
I am in full agreement with you. He should absolutely not be their head coach. The smart thing to do would be to fire him and just promote Liam Cohen.
Yes.
That should be very obvious to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's what they should do because there's a very real chance they lose Liam Cohen this year, which I just want Baker Mayfield to have the same play caller 2 years in a row. I am begging to have Baker Mayfield get the same offensive play caller and same offensive coordinator 2 years in a row. It never happens. He's had like 10 in the last 10 years or something crazy like that. They have a real chance they're going to lose Liam Cohen, and they're probably going to take a step back. They got lucky that they got Cohen after Dave Canales left, who helped Baker kind of have that resurgent 2023 season, kept that offense afloat. Cohen has taken that and improved on it, and they might end up losing him, having their offense take a step back, and then still having Todd Bowles as their head coach. Now, probably not completely unrelated to the question I asked Matt Verderame earlier, probably would not look great for the NFL if another black head coach got fired. I'm not saying that's the only reason Tampa's keeping him because that in and of itself would be a problem, but like Antonio Pierce, and Gerard Mayo, and Todd Bowles all got fired. 2 of them after 1 year, and Todd Bowles after winning a division. That would be a tough look.
Here's a stat that doesn't look good. There have been 18 head coaches. Of the last 18 head coaches to be fired after 1 year, 8 of them have been black.
And honest to God, like, I don't think in a vacuum, like, many of them were the wrong, like,
yes,
David Culley never should have been hired.
Right.
That was a bad idea from the beginning. Steve Wilkes, not cut out for it. Gerard Mayo was terrible. He did an awful job with the Patriots. Antonio Pierce, also, never should have been hired.
Yeah, bad hire.
But, and like all of
in
those,
a vacuum, it's fine. The broader trend suggests something troubling.
Like, whoa, wait a minute here.
Yes.
Yeah, we can talk about that come off season in this hiring cycle. But yeah, I'm with you 100%. If nothing else, with no other like anything involved here, I would just fire Todd Bowles and promote Liam Cohen and say, I'll find a better defensive coordinator who's not going to have us like 25th in the league in defense.
What's your second most interesting game of the weekend?
I've actually got the same number 2 as you. I've got Bucs Commanders. I think there's a chance that game is going to be insane because I think the Bucs are going to put up plenty of points on Washington, and I think Washington's going to put up plenty of points on Tampa. I think there's going to be a lot of high scores, or that's going to be a very high scoring game. I think Baker is going to have a really good game. I have no reason to think Jaden Daniels isn't going to have a really good game. Yeah. So I'm fired up. I just think that one's going to be a points fest.
Number 3 for me is Packers-Eagles.
Okay, so we both had every NFC game first because my number 3 is Rams-Vikings.
And I think that speaks to a broader trend that there feels like a bit more parity. It feels like a deeper playoff field. And I mean, the Packers didn't play great down the stretch and missed a big opportunity late in the year to earn a signature win. And certainly the Vikings are coming off of a disheartening loss in the regular season finale. But broadly speaking, the vibes in the NFC are much better than the vibes in the AFC, where you have two teams that are coming into the playoffs and don't feel like they have any kind of a chance of winning their games just based on their recent form. Where in the NFC, it really kind of feels like you could tell me that the combination of three winners in the NFC is any of the available combinations, and I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I agree with you. I think it's a lot closer, all things considered. I mean, I think Green Bay is really good. I think Washington has the chance to be really good. Rookie quarterback, that's always a toss-up in the playoffs, but they keep winning, and he has looked awesome all year. He's probably going to win Rookie of the Year. The Vikings are a wild card with 14 wins. Like that, they obviously can go toe-to-toe with anybody, including the number 1 seed Detroit Lions. Need a better game from Sam Darnold, but that's neither here nor there for the time being. Whereas in the AFC, I think it's like, yeah, Houston ain't winning the Super Bowl. Pittsburgh ain't winning the Super Bowl. Broncos, like, they could.
Nice little story.
Nice story. Chargers, there's a chance, a good chance, I think they win their first game, but you're not taking the Chargers over the Bills or the Ravens Chiefs. Or the Chiefs.
No.
So, no, I think there's a bigger gap in the teams in the AFC.
Yeah. So, yeah, the NFC, much more of a compelling bracket, I think, for the wild card weekend than the AFC. So let's flip the question. Which of the AFC games is the most compelling? For me, it's Broncos-Bills. And Matt Verderame kind of spelled it out. The Broncos, Bo Nix was 20th in the league this year in QBR. We need to pump the brakes a little bit. I think, and I have a broader, spiel I could go on here. And it fascinates me how this is the case, because everything about the way Sean Payton acts and talks and treats people and has behaved as a head coach suggests that the man is a first-class jerk. Sean Payton feels like a first-class jerk. Yet everybody in the NFL media ecosystem seems to love the man and seems to be willing to do PR for the man. And that included Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on Sunday's broadcast. That was a Bo Nix love fest from start to finish. By the end of that game, I thought Tony Romo was going to see if he could legally adopt Bo Nix. Incredible. The length that the media has gone from the draft to the end of the year to try and prop up Bo Nix, who's a very ordinary and limited quarterback. Is he better than what the Broncos have had for the last decade? Yes, he is. And they've got the playoff berth to prove it. But we're not talking about a future star here. He is who he is. This isn't going to get any better. The Broncos have reached the ceiling of what it's going to be with Sean Payton and Bo Nix. 10 wins, wild card. They're at the ceiling. This is as good as it is going to get for this era of Denver Broncos football. And there's nothing wrong with that. Hell, it's a lot more fun than what, speaking from some personal experience, my friends are having more fun watching football than they have in the last 9 seasons. So there's nothing wrong with this being their ceiling, but we got to be honest about this is what it is. That being said, they do the kinds of things that can make them kind of an annoyance to play against in the postseason. And the Bills at home, where so much is pushed to the middle of the table on this season, you let the Broncos hang around for a half or more, and I think the vibes at Highmark Stadium could get really, really interesting. And so for me, that is the most intriguing game. There's also a chance that Josh Allen leads 2 touchdown drives right away, and it's 14-zip. It could go touchdown, 3-and-out, touchdown, 14-0 Buffalo, and go clean your garage.
I have this same game as my best or most interesting AFC game. And the thing about Nix, and I say this every time I critique him, when I'm watching a game on social media, because Broncos fans have gone ballistic. They've taken the nuclear option in terms of defending the guy online this season. I think Bo Nix can be better than he is right now. Right now, he is good enough to get you to the playoffs. Sure. Yeah. I mean, he put up good numbers. They won a bunch of games.
Certainly much better than I ever thought he would be.
Agreed. I'm with you 100% on that. And he can get better. You don't need to have an elite arm to push the ball down the field. You know who has a above average-ish arm? Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow does not have a great arm relative to other NFL quarterbacks, but he's also one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league, and he pushes it. He's still willing to move the ball 10, 15, 20 yards down the field, and he's very accurate. He gets it there. Bo Nix, accurate. If he's going to push the ball more, the ceiling is higher. Right now, he is not asked to push the ball ever unless you get like one jump ball opportunity to Cortland Sutton a game. Like that's kind of it. Or against a backup corner like we saw this weekend against the Chiefs. That being said, their defense is really good, and the offense has worked. It's limited. I don't think it's an offense you can win a Super Bowl with, but it's working. The system as currently employed has been functional for the Broncos. So, yeah, I think they can make it shake. I think they can make it competitive because, again, the Bills' defense has not been very good for about a month now.
A text from the 785. You let Sean Payton hang around. He's been there before and could make a problem for an opponent. Also, Barbara from the YouTube live chat says Bronco fans are comparing Bo Nix to Tim Tebow. And I want to point that out because those are the only people on planet Earth who would consider that a compliment. Because everybody else with a brain comparing a quarterback to Tim Tebow is an insult.
I assume it's just the, like, all he does is win. I assume that's the reason why.
It's a big contingent of Jefferson County, Douglas County, El Paso County Bronco fans. And I don't mean Kansas when I refer to those counties. That's an extremely locals only bit that is only funny to me. Anyway, that leaves two games. The Steelers-Ravens is fascinating from a rivalry perspective, but I expect the Steelers to get nuked off the planet. Like they are sludge water right now, the way that they're currently playing. And I've never been excited to watch the Texans play a playoff game. Not even never in my life have I been like, oh, hell yeah, the Texans are in the playoffs, especially this version of the Texans. Again, this might be a topic for the offseason. How concerned are we about this year two regression for CJ Stroud? Is it all the offensive line and losing playmakers, or there's something a little bit more rotten here with CJ Stroud year two?
CJ Stroud, as a rookie, put up great numbers, won a ton of games, looked awesome, but the underlying metrics indicated he was playing well above expectation, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I mean, what matters is the actual production, right? This year, we are seeing, that's a horrible offensive line. It's just unplayably bad. But also, there are some other things that have brought him back to the pack a little bit, and they're mostly the things that he was knocked for coming out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
Sometimes the scouts are right. By the way, my second one in the AFC, I put Steelers-Ravens because rivalry game. That's fun. Rivalry game.
I get to watch Lamar. The Chargers are a thuddingly boring football team. They're a competent football team, but like again, they should be more exciting to watch. But Jim Harbaugh is not there for exciting. Jim Harbaugh is there for competent and
hard-nosed, old school,
efficient.
I will say, I think if they had better pass catchers, they would be more fun. The problem is they don't.
They got one guy.
Yeah, it's
the lad.
And he's good. He's very good. But yeah, I mean, with Quentin Johnston's number 2, Quentin Johnston is your number 3. All right, yeah, I'll buy a little stock in that. If he's number 2, nah, I'm good.
We'll take a timeout. What is wrong with you when we come back? Michael Swain of Fog.net in just a bit for the Jayhawk Weekly. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk? 2 new stories today trying to take down our first current weekly champion of 2025. A story I dubbed, I don't know a drunk driver when I see one or when I am one. A motorist in Vancouver Island in Canada called in to report an impaired driver. Turns out he was impaired, but the other guy wasn't.
The name really rolls off the tongue there.
Yeah, it's a little clunky, but the best I could do on short notice. 2 new stories today. Brendan, what you got?
All right. For my story, a Hooters waitress got drunk and tried to get out of a ticket by calling a cop daddy.
Whoa. Well, that's what the podcast says to do, right?
Sarasota police body camera footage shows a Hooters waitress's attempt to flirt her way out of an alleged DUI arrest. 22-year-old Sophia Ross was caught behind the wheel of a Jeep with a blood alcohol level of 0.318. Folks, that is nearly 4 times the legal limit in the state of Florida.
Yeah, I'm looking at the video. She can hardly stand.
Yeah, and everywhere else as well. A responding officer's body-worn camera captured Ross repeatedly calling him daddy and saying she would do anything for him. She pulled up her sweatshirt to reveal her Hooters uniform as an attempt to get her out of the DUI exercises. Her pleas and flirtations did not work. She was arrested with a charge of DUI with a BAC over 0.15 or higher. Her bond was set at a mere $500.
You shoot your shot is the lesson here, right? Like, you never know unless you use what your mama gave you, I guess.
I guess.
I've never been in that position for many different reasons.
No, I've never had my blood alcohol content 4 times the legal limit and then decided to drive.
I'm going to flirt my way out of this one. No, I promise you you're not.
No, not going to work.
Many things she could have flirted her way into that night. One of them should have been a cab or an Uber.
Yes, correct.
My story today, we love a slapstick element to a story. And we get one to go to Fulton in, not our friend Fulton Caster. No, not our friend Fulton Caster. This is Fulton, Missouri, where a Fulton police car caught fire in a parking lot on Saturday night. According to the police department, 2 officers were on patrol in the vehicle, and they smelled something burning. So they pulled off the road and into a parking lot in Fulton. The parking lot was a gas station parking lot. And as soon as the officers got out of the vehicle, the car was engulfed in flames. No one was injured in the fire. There's no additional property damage other than the police car. The fire is believed to be caused by an electrical component in the patrol car. The incident was under investigation. So, yes, you had 2 police officers say, so it smells like something burning in this car. Why don't we park next to these gas tanks and take a look?
Probably not the smartest idea they've ever had.
So I really like both of these stories today. Who are we going with?
I am going to go with your story, Dan, our second story, only because I in no way want to at all endorse being 4 times over the legal limit.
Yeah. So,
even for a what is wrong with you.
You know, we've used Ty Go to Sobriety as a tiebreaker many times. I just love the idea of, I'm going to park at a gas station. I smell something burning. Something is burning in my vehicle. I'm going to park near these gas tanks. And I'm going to get out and we'll give her a little look-see. And no, you won't. You're lucky you still have your eyebrows, among other things. Does that beat the DUI bust from yesterday?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with that DUI. That's 3 DUI stories in 2 days.
Yeah, that's wild.
Chill out.
Yeah, man. Call a cab. Jinx, you owe me a Coke. Michael Swain joins us next for Jayhawk Weekly as 580 Sports Talk continues. We are pleased to be joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for the first time in 2025 by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael covers the Jayhawks for the 24/7 Sports Network. Become a VIP subscriber today and get all of Michael's inside info. You can also follow him on Twitter at mswain247. Michael, Happy New Year. How were your holidays?
They were great. Hopefully you guys had some time away, time to hang out with family and all that. But it's crazy to think we're already 7th of January. It feels like just yesterday was New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that is a fact. New Year already flying by. Are you buried in snow where you're at?
Well, I spent the better part of probably, 90 minutes to 2 hours the other day kind of digging my car out, my fiance's car out. But we're good now. I went to Lawrence earlier today, and the roads and highways are all in pretty decent shape. So definitely a lot better than I think we were, a day or two ago.
Happy to hear it. Michael Swain of Fog.net joining us for Jayhawk Weekly. Let's dive into it. KU basketball's fixed, right? They beat UCF by 51. Everything's fixed? Everything's fine now?
Yeah, I think so, right? Looking ahead, KU won't lose another game. They'll win everything by 50. Look, I think if you listen to Bill Self's press conference going into the UCF game, I think it's pretty easy to pick up on what he was trying to say, which is KU needed to play with more energy. And I think that's something that if you've watched KU, I think we maybe even talked about on the show, you go to like the Missouri game. How in the world are you flat for a rivalry game? And I think the same question can be asked for KU, right? We didn't talk about it because we didn't have the show, but, how are you flat for a Big 12 home open, right? How does that happen? And so I think Self was pretty pissed off about that. And you could see with just how frequently he was mentioning it, that was a point of emphasis. And sure enough, what happens? Well, KU plays with a lot of effort and intensity. And all of a sudden, look, they look like one of the best teams in the country because they are. They've got the talent. Just it's all about, I think, some of the pieces fitting. And for some of the pieces to fit, you have to play with great energy because there are still deficiencies in the team, right? Floor spacing is never going to be great when you're playing DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, and Hunter Dickinson all together for as many minutes as I've played. So you got to find different ways, right? KJ's got to do other things than just stand on the perimeter. I think that's what you saw from him. And so I think overall, right, I'm sure Self's going to be equally frustrated by the performance because you look back and say, if you play like that at Missouri, you play like that at Creighton with that energy and that intensity on the road, you win both those games. Now, obviously, you're not going to recreate that every single game, but I think it shows you that, hey, this team has that extra gear it can get to. And look, going ahead, like it's just about how often they can get to that gear.
So, Michael, I made a statement on yesterday's program, and I don't feel the need to walk it back, but I want to ask you the question and get your thought on what I have to say. And I want to be careful about how I phrase it. But has there been a big man under Bill Self who, as a freshman, could do as much and be as impactful as Flory Badunga? Because right now he feels like a young man who is beyond my expectations of what he would be able to do, but is doing everything that they're asking him to do at a really high level right now.
Yeah, he is. But let's be real here. This is a very niche role, right? He's asked to go out there, and he's not getting a lot of post-ups, right? He's feeding off of pick and roll, right? It's a very niche role. He's a roll guy, rim runner, and can you protect the paint? And that's what Flory is. He is an elite paint protector. If you listen to anyone who's watched him in the high school ranks, like he was the most athletic big man, maybe even the best, athlete in the class, and was the best shot blocker in the country in his class. And one of the best shot blockers I think some people have seen in maybe a couple cycles. So, the role he's in right now is very tailor-made to his strengths, right? His athleticism, his ability to block shots and have the instinct to block shots. He's still not super well-rounded. I think you see that at times when he does get the ball and he has to make a post move or has to do something with it. It's not always pretty. But I think for someone in this role specifically, he's doing everything he's asked. I think that's because I think you got to give credit to the coaches for figuring out this is what Flory is comfortable doing at this point in time. Let's really try and emphasize this. And I think you really saw that, like 6 block shots, first guy to do it since Nick Collison. That's pretty impressive. As a true freshman, I should mention. But yeah, it is impressive. I think, though, he is someone that has a very tailor-made role that is built towards his strengths. And I think if you asked him to go out there and play 30 minutes, it would look very different, because I think there would be times when you could see just how raw he is offensively, how much he needs to grow in terms of physicality. But for the time being, I think he's really excelling in this role they have for him.
Michael Swain is our guest. He covers Kansas Jayhawks athletics, football, basketball, recruiting, women's basketball too, over at fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Go be a VIP. It is absolutely worth every single cent for all the best insight into what is going on with KU athletics in Lawrence. 14 points for Rylan Griffin on Sunday, Michael. A new season high for him, his new Jayhawk high. Was that maybe the spark he needed to be a bigger part of this offensive attack?
I think so. And I think it's really interesting if you look at the minute dynamic, right, between him and AJ Storr. For most of the season, AJ's been the one getting the key minutes. And, you look at the game on Sunday, and Rylan was ahead of AJ in the rotation. I think Rylan is the type of guy that if he comes out and plays with that type of energy that he did, right, if you watched him, like, he was diving on the floor for loose balls, he was active on the glass. Those are the things that are going to get him more minutes, because it doesn't matter if his shots fall or not. He's providing enough to you outside of the offensive end and outside of just floor spacing that you can still play with him on the floor. I think it's some of the other games this year when, his shot hasn't fallen and then he's not exactly been super intense. He's had a mental lapse on defense, and then you can't play him because you're losing so much with him on the floor. And so I think Sunday's performance was so encouraging in that regard. Like Bill Self made his point today, right? Even if Rylan went 1 for 4 from 3, you'd still be here saying, man, that was a solid game from him because he did the right things and got in the right spots and didn't force it. And so that for me is the most encouraging thing. It's not always, I think a lot of times, myself included, we can be very results driven, but I think sometimes how you get there is really important. And I really loved how Rylan got there on Sunday.
Why did Johnny Dawkins decide to guard KJ Adams straight up?
I have no idea. I really don't. And that was something that I think, we talked a little bit on the message board, right? Like, you look at the Big 12 coaches, man, like, there are a lot of really good coaches. But when you expand to 16 teams, and a UCF is put in there, I just don't know, man. Like, I think there are a lot of questionable decisions Johnny Dawkins has made over the last 12 months, including some of the people he's taken on his team. But playing KJ Adams like he's a guy that can score the basketball effectively and shoot when he hasn't really shown that in recent weeks, I think is certainly a decision.
The next up for Kansas tomorrow night, back home at Allen Fieldhouse, 8 o'clock, tip off against Arizona State. More talented Arizona State team than they've been the last couple of years. I am not so sure that Bobby Hurley is a very good coach. Certainly not as good of a coach as his brother is. What is KU going to have to do to get a bounce back win at home tomorrow night?
Well, I think first of all, you got to play with the same energy and intensity. This is the Arizona State team that is talented. I think you're right. Like, you look top to bottom, you got someone like Sonone, he's questionable for the game. We'll see if he plays, but 13 points a game. I mean, shooting 48% from 3 on almost 5 attempts. Like, KU was involved with his recruitment. Things kind of went a different way in the end, but he's a guy KU was after. You look at Jaden Quaintance, the big man, another guy KU was after. And man, I think he's 17. He's got to play 2 years of college. And I'll tell you what, guys, like, next season, he will be an all Big 12 player. Like, he is so talented. And for someone that is as young as he is, doing what he's doing, where he's playing, what is it? I think 30 minutes a game. I was looking earlier, like, that's impressive. So this is an Arizona State team. Look, the resume is not super sexy, but I think you look at the talent they have. It's a team that if they come in down Fieldhouse and they play their A+ game, KU's going to be in trouble. I think for KU, it's going to come back to, hey, can you play with the energy? And Bill Self talks about this all the time. Can you make the other team play poorly? If you do those two things, KU's going to be in a great spot. But if it comes out and KU is kind of sitting on their laurels after a big win and they are playing with energy and intensity, like, this is a team that can take advantage of it. So I think this is going to be a really interesting game because I do like the talent Arizona State has. I agree with you on the coaching comment. And so it's going to make it for a really interesting game.
A couple more questions for Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Make sure you follow him on social media, mswain247, Twitter, Blue Sky, all those good places. And, of course, go be a VIP member over at fog.net as well for the best insight into what's going on with KU. Let's flip over to football and the transfer portal and some recruiting as well, Michael. Tell us a little bit about the newest Jayhawk who just signed today on the football field.
Yeah, Trey Lathan coming in from West Virginia, linebacker transfer. started every game, I believe, for West Virginia this past season. You know, he's someone that you saw this year, right, with the microphones or the headsets, I should say. He was the guy that was the middle linebacker setting all the defense for West Virginia. And he is a guy that's got 2 years left, which is really important in this day and age to get guys with multiple years of eligibility. He's got 2 years left. He's a good athlete. Yeah, you look at the tackle for loss numbers. He has a nose for making really good plays. I believe it was 9 tackles for loss this past season, 2 sacks. You know, he's the type of guy that you can envision being used in a similar way to J.B. Brown, where it's, hey, you know, go get after the quarterback. You're going to blitz. You're going to be used in a few different ways. He played in space at West Virginia. I think it's a very sound addition for KU. And when you factor in Joseph Stipp Jr. coming in from Bowling Green, a guy that's played a ton of football, a lot of production. You've got Bengali Kamara coming in from South Carolina. He's going to be one of the best athletes on KU's defense. Like, this linebacker core, all of a sudden, it was a big issue this past year. It's got the chance to be a lot better. Now, obviously, it's going to come down to some of those guys adapting and getting in tune with the scheme with DK McDonald, but I think talent-wise, on paper, it looks like the best unit KU's had in a good long while.
How do you think the playing time might shake out with that group as it currently stands with the linebackers coming back and the ones coming in?
Yeah, it's a good question. It kind of goes back to the question of, all right, what do you think KU's going to be defensively, right? You think they're going to be a 4-3 team like they theoretically were a lot under Brian Borland, or are they going to go to more of the 4-2-5 that you saw kind of more this past season, where maybe that fifth defensive back is kind of a safety guy like Marvin Grant, right? If we're saying KU's a 3 linebacker team, well, then I think these 3 guys are going to start that are coming in, right? And if it's a 2 linebacker kind of situation, I would probably lean Sip and Bengali Kamara being your 2 starters right now. I think Lathan definitely is going to push both those guys, but just my kind of general feel on it is I really do like, you know, Sip and Kamara and what they can offer you as a 1-2 punch. And obviously Lathan's going to play a lot, right? Let's not make any mistake about it. Those 3 guys are going to play a lot. And if KU's going to play more of this 2 linebacker look, well, having 3 guys for 2 spots is a really strong position to be in, because if you look at this past season, right, you know, Tyler Berryhill had to play every single snap against TCU, and you could see how that fell apart in the fourth quarter. You could see that at a few different spots for KU at linebacker, where when those guys have to play a lot, things can get ugly in the fourth quarter, and Kansas needs to be better in the fourth quarter on defense, right? How many times this past season we talk about that, where KU's unable to get stops late in the game when they needed to. So I think this linebacker core, it's going to be deep, right? I think you've got a really good top 3. If, you know, Jason Gilliam can take a big step forward, if Logan Bradley can take a big step forward, you know, maybe you got a really good kind of top 4, top 5. But I think in terms of top 3, you feel really good about it.
All right, last one, Michael. We got about 30 seconds here. This is old news, but it is big news that J.J. Dunnigan, the standout from Manhattan High, has committed to Kansas. What are the short-term and long-term effects that you would hope that Dunnigan's commitment can have on KU?
Yeah, short-term, obviously, momentum in state, right? That's a big thing. KU's really put a lot of effort in the state of Kansas to make it a priority. Long-term, look, I mean, he's a really good football player. You know, he's probably going to have the chance to play both ways at Kansas. He's probably going to be, well, maybe number 2 player, number 1 player in the state. So KU's got a really, really talented player. And when other guys look at this class, they can see now, hey, it's a guy that had a ton of other offers who picked Kansas.
Michael Swain covers the Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and appears with us every Tuesday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, great to have you along once again. We'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Sounds great, guys. Talk to you then.
That is Michael Swain. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up the 4 o'clock hour. 580 Sports Talk next. Wrapping up hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk. Our thanks again to Michael Swain of Fog.net for joining us for Jayhawk Weekly. Brendan, you've been following KU football longer than I have. J.J. Dunnigan is the biggest deal Kansas recruit to sign on for the Jayhawks since?
Does Devin count?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, he's in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, because it's Devin Neal.
You're right.
And I know
what
that
he
he's
became,
different because
it's easier to, yeah.
But, I mean, there were Amani Bledsoe was from Lawrence. He was a 4-star kid, and he wasn't going to commit to David Beatty. He went to Oklahoma. Like there had been local Corcoran from Free State. He was a Lawrence kid. He went to Nebraska.
Right.
Like there had been those local guys. So it's Devin Neal in the non-Devin category. Oh man, I don't know that I can give you a good answer, man. It's been a while.
Yeah.
This is shaping up like it's going to be a pretty good class for KU next year locally. Quarterback from Wichita, Jalen Mason. He's signed on as well. Good player. So this is good work by Lance Leipold and crew. It's taken a while, understandably. I mean, K-State has dominated.
Such a head start for the Wildcats.
Yeah, a massive head start. But it's good, frankly, for the student athletes at the high school level in the state of Kansas to have two programs that are worth something.
Yes, because it gives the in-state kids a chance to play at a high level, play Big 12 football, and play in some big games and some meaningful and competitive Sunflower Showdowns.
Yeah, I was going to say adds juice to the rivalry, too.
Absolutely it does. In the final hour of 580 Sports Talk, we'll talk some Royals rotation, preview K-State hoops, and give you your 580 Sports Talk headlines on a busy day. That's all coming up on the final hour of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Final hour of 580 Sports Talk on a Tuesday afternoon. Thanks so much for being with us on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on the YouTube live stream. You can check us out on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. You can also watch us on Facebook at WIBW News. Gang's all here for the final hour. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dorzinski, Spencer Dupuis. We've got some Royals baseball to get to. They made a signing yesterday. Michael Lorenzen is back in blue. We'll talk about what that means for the Royals rotation moving forward. Also, K-State basketball tonight. They've got a must-win. I won't say they're all must-wins. It's one of my least favorite phrases when you're talking about sports. The only game you actually have to win is the game that is either for the championship or like for the right to continue your season. Playoff games are must-win games. I try to avoid falling back on must win as a description of regular season games. That being said, there are games that would certainly behoove a team to win. I'm going to sidetrack a little bit here. You guys remember baseball manager Jim Tracy? Had 3 gigs with the Dodgers and with the Pirates, and was actually National League Manager of the Year in 2009 with the Colorado Rockies. That was one of his favorite turns of phrase in post-game like press conferences, or any media availability. He would always say something to the effect of, it would behoove us to get a hit with runners in scoring position, or it would behoove us to be able to take some of the pressure off our bullpen, or whatever it was. So anytime I hear that word or use that word, I think about Jim Tracy. Anyway, that's me sidetracking. Anyhow, it would behoove Kansas State to win in Stillwater tonight. I realize it has been a difficult travel week for the Wildcats. They are coming off of a 1-point loss in Fort Worth on Saturday. They had to feel like a gut punch, but it would behoove the Cats to win this game tonight. We'll talk about it.
They just went to Stillwater, right? They just went from...
Yes, they did not come back to Manhattan. There was no way for them to get back to Manhattan. So we will discuss that a little bit, and then you keep your dial right on 580 WIBW or FM 104.9. You'll be able to hear the game on your home for the Wildcats. As we will send it to pregame coverage. When we are done, we'll have pregame coverage at 6 o'clock, and we will have the tip-off from Gallagher-Iba Arena at 7 tonight.
To start headlines today, can I give a shout-out to a past member of the 580 Sports Talk team?
Yeah, you most certainly can.
I would like to begin our headlines today by giving a shout-out to 580 WIBW former employee, former host of this program, Pat Strothman. Pat is the National Sports Media Association's Kansas Sports Broadcaster of the Year. So a big shout out to Pat.
Yeah, shout out to Pat. Congratulations to him. Well-deserved honor for an extremely nice man, and one of the best guys I've met, interacted with. Super dude, and deserves any plaudits that come his way.
You ever been nominated?
No. I got to figure out how I get nominated. Frankly,
my internship boss won.
Hey,
for West Virginia.
There we go.
Last year or 2 years ago.
My understanding is you have to be nominated by someone who is a member of the National Sports Media Association.
Okay, so
which is problematic for me because I have no connections.
Yeah, I gotta grease the right palms apparently, and see if I can get nominated.
At least we'll know someone now. I'm assuming he's going to be a member.
Hey Pat, congrats. By the way,
hey, you don't want to win this the next 7 years, right? Like you want to set the table and pass the buck, right?
Our guy Michael Swain was a finalist for the Sports Writer of the Year award in Kansas. I believe he won last year.
Is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Taylor Eldridge is the Wichita Eagle this year's winner. So does an outstanding job covering Wichita State.
Taylor, officially a friend of the program because we had him on one time.
Yeah. Anyhow, yes, we can start at 580 Sports Headlines with that. That's great news for a former member of this sports staff here at 580 WIW. Proud we are of all of our alumni. Anyhow, let's get to some national sports headlines as we do here on 580 Sports Talk Headlines. Start off every 5 o'clock hour. Antonio Pierce gets the ziggy, as Dick Vitale likes to call it. Fired after one full season at the helm of the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders lost 10 straight games at one point this season and finished the regular season 0-6 against AFC West opponents. They had a 4-13 overall record in Pierce's first full year. He had taken over as the interim coach when the Raiders fired Josh McDaniels in the middle of last season. If I've said it once, said 1,000 times on this program, Don't hire the substitute teacher. Whatever you do not hire the substitute teacher. Anybody would have benefited in proximity to a coaching tenure from Josh McDaniels, because not only is Josh McDaniels a buffoon, he's an extremely unlikable buffoon. He might be the most single unlikable head football coach in the history of the National Football League. The only person that likes him is Tom Brady, which is funny because there are lots of reports out there that Raiders minority owner Tom Brady will have a lot of input on who gets to be the next Raiders head coach. Maybe he'll get really invested in his ownership and he'll quit broadcasting. We can only hope.
Why doesn't he become the head coach?
I don't think he has any desired coach.
No.
I don't know that Tom Brady's future is in coaching. Although, I mean, he already blew up his marriage to play. Like, what's coaching in terms of your time commitment? If you've already been willing to blow up a marriage over just playing the game for longer in your life than your wife would have liked. Anyhow,
it is not nice to make comments about someone's physical appearance. It's not, as a general rule of thumb. However, he looks like Skeletor.
Tom Brady looks embalmed.
Yeah.
It is okay to have fat in your cheeks. I promise you guys.
That's
promise
what you would look like if you would stop eating so many dang strawberries.
God, he doesn't eat strawberries. Yeah, I mean, the funniest thing is that he does those commercials for Tostitos now. Bro, you've never eaten a Tostito in your life.
They called him and asked him, and he was like, "What is a Tostito?" And they're like, "Never mind that. We will give you X million dollars." He said, "All right, bet."
What if we put Julian Edelman in the commercials? Sold. Let's
Sounds
go.
like
I'm in.
Sounds like a fun afternoon. Yeah. So anyhow, the Raiders are looking for a new head coach, just like they were in the 2020 offseason and the 2021 offseason and the 2022 offseason. They are now looking for another new head coach. And look, there are lots of reasons why bad franchises, losing franchises, stay losers. You start with the ownership, the people making these decisions, the people deciding who the head coach will be is Mark Davis. And that has not changed. And until that changes, this is going to be what it keeps on being for the Las Vegas Raiders. It literally doesn't matter who they hire. Losing franchises stay losing because of the people who are ultimately in charge. And the Raiders are not alone in being a total joke at the administrative level, the ownership level, but they are certainly in that department. And so all the best to whoever takes that job next season. I don't know who's going to be their quarterback. You got Brock Bowers. He's cool. You got Max Crosby back. He's awesome. I don't know what else. Christian Wilkins should be healthy. That looked really good for a couple of weeks there. I just don't know that it matters. Like, they are a franchise that I don't think it matters who the head coach is.
No, they're just rudderless. And they're falling behind, too, because the Chiefs are obviously the Chiefs. The Broncos, whatever you think about Sean Payton, and I think a lot of people feel fairly negatively about him as a person, but as a coach, he clearly knows what he's doing. They are on an upward trajectory. I think the Chargers run an upward trajectory.
Yeah.
What are the Raiders doing? The Raiders are the Bears. Like, that's what they are.
The Raiders are the Bears, are the Jets, are the Jaguars, there are a lot of franchises out there right now where you look at their power structure, the ownership at the very top, and you think, why would any good coach want to work for this franchise?
It is interesting, too, how many teams around the NFL refuse to have the proper synergy between general manager / decision maker and head coach, because look at a lot of these openings or a lot of these bad teams. The Raiders fired Antonio Pierce, but they're keeping Tom Telesco. We'll get to another headline here in a moment. In fact, let's just jump right on into it. The Tennessee Titans, they own the #1 pick in the NFL draft this year. I imagine they are probably going to take either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. It will not be Rand Carthon,
yeah.
Who will make that decision. He has been their general manager the last couple of years. He has 4 years left on his contract, and Amy Adams Strunk, the chairman or chairwoman of the Tennessee Titans, fired him today and decided they're going to go in a different direction. What? So now more teams that are going to have their general manager and their head coach on different contractual timelines. The Bears are like that as well. All sorts of teams are like this. It doesn't make any amount of sense. Why would you want these people to have different goals, essentially, in different times in their career, in their tenure, that they're going to be trying to save their job? I think it's ridiculous. I don't really understand this from Tennessee. I don't think Carthon was like a genius by any means, but he hasn't really done anything the Snead thing blew up in his face. And They had to draft Will Levis, essentially, because they needed to find a quarterback to replace Ryan Tannehill. The process was good. The player just isn't.
Because they had bricked on the Malik Willis pick.
That's true. Malik Willis as well. No, that's a fair point. So, yeah, maybe he deserved it anyway, but it's a very strange time to go through with it, I think. And really unfortunate because this draft class.
You want to talk about rudderless franchises? That was a franchise that 2 years ago had a head coach who had won a lot of games and was really well respected around the league, and they fired him for reasons, inscrutable reasons. And
sounds like he was mean to the owner. Sounds like they had a tiff, and that was enough to fire a guy who got them a number 1 seed in the playoffs.
Yes, you can add I think you can add the Titans to the list of those rudderless, poorly owned franchise. Amy Adams Strunk doesn't know what she's doing.
Yeah.
I keep thinking whenever I see her name that it's the Amy Adams who was in like
The actress.
the Talladega Nights and some other fun movies that I've enjoyed, like Amy Adams. It's not that Amy Adams.
No, it's not that Amy Adams.
That Amy Adams would probably do a better job running an NFL team.
I'd like to see her try. Yeah, the Titans are a bad franchise, and they don't have direction. They do not.
It's amazing how many of them there are in the NFL and how many of them have been revealed to be that even in just the last couple of years.
Matt made the point earlier when we spoke to Matt Verderame about non-football people making football decisions. The smart owners who are not football people get the hell out of the way. Like in Seattle,
Paul Allen, the
Allen's
Allen family, Jody
Allen. All right, I'm backing off. John Schneider, you've got control. She just backs up. She's not a football person. She lets him do his thing. And for the most part, it has worked out.
I'm going to sign these checks. You do you.
It is not a coincidence that when there was a report in November that David Tepper had stopped interfering with the day-to-day goings on with the Carolina Panthers, suddenly Bryce Young was good.
Yeah.
Literally as soon as he said, you know what, I'm going to stop meddling, Bryce Young has looked like the number 1 overall pick.
And Dave Canales has looked like a good coach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Shocking. and same in Vegas. Like Al Davis didn't always have the right ideas, but that dude was a football guy. His son, Mark, likes football, but doesn't know what he's doing.
No.
I don't actually think the McCaskies like football after Virginia. I really don't. They have no idea what they're doing, but they meddle too. It's bad. You know about bad ownership, Spencer.
Yeah, I'm happy I don't have to deal with it anymore.
No, it's nice. Feels good, doesn't it?
Feels great that the culture's there, and it's just like, Cliff Kingsbury might go be a head coach again. Who knows? But the culture is still going to be there.
You got a headline for us, Spencer?
Yeah, I do. Speaking of people of organizations that are bad, this one organization is continuing to spend the Sacramento Athletics, A's, whatever they're called, have signed an extension with designated hitter Brent Rooker to a 5-year, $60 million extension late Monday night. As before he joined the A's in 2023, he had bounced among 3 teams without finding consistent playing time, and now he looks to be their star DH.
Yeah, you can't
wherever they're going to play.
You can't help but think how the Royals lineup might look a little bit different if they'd given Brent Rooker a longer leash than just 14 games and 25 at bats in 2022. Now, granted, they were 25 ugly at bats. He had 4 hits. He struck out 7 times. And then upon arriving in Oakland and being told, hey, man, nothing here matters. Just go and try and hit some bombs. And he's hit 69 home runs in the last 2 seasons. And last year was like a legitimate star caliber player, even as a DH, which is his primary position. Like his position is hitter. Put up 5.5 wins above replacement. He was that good. 39 dings, 112 ribs, 927 OPS. Really, really outstanding season for Rooker as he goes into his age 30 season. He is now well compensated. And the Athletics, again, that is the Major League Baseball style guide way to refer to them going into this year. They are not to be referred to, according to Major League Baseball, as the Sacramento Athletics or the California Athletics or the Oakland Athletics or the Las Vegas Athletics. They are the Athletics.
You're telling me Rob Manfred would not like it if I said Sacramento A's?
I think he would hate it, which is why it's in the notes and why I will be referring to them throughout this upcoming baseball season as the Sacramento A's.
Correct.
So the Sacramento A's have thrown some money around this offseason. That's not the first big contract they've signed. They gave Luis Severino $67 million over the next 3 years. And the key number here is $100 million, which is roughly where the A's payroll needs to be because they run the risk of a grievance being filed by the union. If they do not spend at least 1.5 times the revenue sharing money that they receive. They have not been doing that for quite some time. The union has noticed.
I do find it funny that there are two teams, at least, that are working through stadium problems right now, and their owners all of a sudden found money to spend on free agents and re-signing players to big contracts.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? What interesting. Yeah, it's strange how that happens. Also, all of the teams who got cut adrift by Diamond Sports Group and all those teams are not doing a thing in free agency or offloading talent.
Can you name the one team of the 30 in Major League Baseball? There's one team that has not spent a single dollar in free agency. Can you name the team?
Ooh, is it the Twins?
It is not the Twins. Don't overthink it.
Is it Cleveland?
Nope, not Cleveland.
No, they signed Santana.
Is it the White Sox?
Not the White Sox. No minors contracts, no majors contracts, not a single dollar.
It's not the Pirates, is it?
Nope. Different Ponzi scheme franchise.
It's the Marlins.
It's the Marlins. The Miami Marlins have not spent a single dollar.
Made a couple of trades.
Yeah.
Challenge trade with your Cubs the other day.
That's true. Yeah.
Vidal Brujan for Matt Mervis. See, I'm a sicko. I'm watching the transaction wires every day.
Hey, man, when you can get rid of Jesus Luzardo, I mean, you just have to do it.
Yeah, I forgot they did that.
When you can get rid of your actually good players, I mean, you just got to do it.
Next headline for me. I rolled my eyes when the Dallas Cowboys decided to release veteran running back Ezekiel Elliott before the final week of the regular season with the logic of this will help him maybe catch on with a team that has a chance to play in the postseason. If anybody has watched Ezekiel Elliott play, Cooked doesn't even begin to describe what Zeke Elliott is at this stage of his career. Anyhow, he signed with the Los Angeles Chargers practice squad today. So he did find a place, but I cannot imagine he would be elevated from the practice squad. He's got a chance to get that Melvin Gordon ring, I guess. Remember Melvin Gordon, Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs. Never forget. But yeah, that's where Zeke Elliott wound up. Great player in his time. That time is well past. I'm stunned anybody took a flyer, to be honest with you. But I guess Jerry Jones knew something I didn't.
Speaking of Jerry Jones, my final headline for today is just a very bizarre situation. I don't know what the Cowboys are doing here. So Mike McCarthy, as we went over yesterday, his contract ends on 1 week from today. His contract expires on January 14th. Yesterday, the Chicago Bears officially put in a request to interview him. You have to request an interview while guys are still under contract. The Dallas Cowboys have now gone over 24 hours and have not responded to that request. So they're just kind of holding Mike McCarthy hostage at this point.
Sounds like it.
Do you think that's going to make him more likely to want to work for you? I
really don't like how they've treated Mike McCarthy. It's like, I don't think he's the world's greatest football coach, but I don't understand how they've treated him, and I don't like it.
By
Speaking
all
of
accounts,
meddling owners.
What was that?
Speaking of meddling owners.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, by all accounts, Mike McCarthy is a very, very, very good and well-respected person.
Yeah.
This is not the way you treat people, man. Also, if I was in that situation and you said, you know what, go ahead, seek things out, come back, we'll match an offer, we want you to stay. You know what? I'd say, you know what? I do want to stay. That feels good. I feel like you're being fair with me. You're being an adult. If this happened to me, I'd say, no, I'm absolutely not negotiating with you. I'm letting my contract lapse.
Well, there's no contract extension on the table, is there?
No, not reportedly.
Okay, so if there was, I could see them doing this, being like, decide what you want to do with our contract extension. But
why is Jerry Jones doing this? Dak Prescott went down to the last minute. CeeDee Lamb is going to be a lame duck player. Micah Parsons is going to be a lame duck player. Well, their head coach is a lame duck. Why are they doing this? I don't get it.
Maybe needs to step aside.
He probably should.
Headline, Spencer?
Yeah, I'll get you a headline.
Oh, wait,
here.
no, Brendan, sorry.
No, mine was Mike McCarthy.
Oh, yours was Mike McCarthy? Okay, yeah, go. I was just making sure I didn't skip you. Go ahead, Spencer.
Former Lansing High and Hutchinson Community College standout Malik Benson has committed to Oregon. He's intrigued by quarterback Dante Moore.
So Malik Benson had K-State in his
yes.
final three. This is a player who, like Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia, all of a sudden has found himself with an extra year of eligibility because of his junior college experience. And for now, because there is an injunction, there is no guarantee that these guys are going to get to play. Like we are taking it as a fait accompli that now all these JUCO guys have this extra year. For now, there is an injunction that allows them to pursue this extra year of eligibility. We will have to still see how it's going to play out in the long term.
So they need, essentially, my understanding is they essentially just need this to last until the season starts.
Right.
Because they've said once we get to the season, if they reverse it, they're not going to take away this extra year of eligibility. So they essentially need to get to the last weekend of August. And then these guys will be free to play. KU has had an issue with the guy they've been recruiting because his situation is all murky. He might have an extra year, might not. They don't know. It's a very strange process right now. But Malik, I mean, he was a really highly regarded recruit a few years ago.
Yeah, he was a big deal, especially coming out of junior college. He was one of the best players in the country at Hutchinson Community College. I think he, in fact, was the number 1 JUCO prospect in the country. Went to Alabama, played 14 games, transferred to Florida State, caught 25 passes this season. Had K-State in his final 3 and did make a visit to K-State, but ultimately chose Oregon.
It's been a good portal, by the way, for both KU and K-State.
No,
K-State
it really
keeps
has.
bringing in talent.
I love, and we'll talk about this more with Tim Fitzgerald in tomorrow's show. I love the Gunnar Maldonado edition at safety. I think that's a big-time ad for K-State at a real position of need. Final headline for me. You guys ready for the big game tonight?
What?
New York Golf Club,
Oh,
Bay Golf Club, opening night for TGL, the new fancy golf simulator league fronted by Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy on ESPN and ESPN Plus, live from the SoFi Center, 8 o'clock first tee thing. Tee time. There we go. New York Golf Club and the Bay Golf Club. Who plays for them? Glad you asked. New York Golf Club, Matt Fitzpatrick, Ricky Fowler, Xander Schauffele, 2-time major champ, and Cameron Young. The Bay Golf Club features Ludwig Oberg, Wyndham Clark, major champ, Min-Woo Lee, and 2-time major champ Shane Lowry.
I looked up what the SoFi Center is. It's a 250,000 square foot venue.
It's made for this. It exists strictly for this.
On the campus of Palm Beach State College in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida.
This is the most COVID-sounding thing that has happened since the pandemic.
Indoor golf.
Remember when
they were going to do it last year, and then there was a huge storm, and it took down the dome.
Remember when they were putting iRacing on TV during COVID because they needed content?
And one of the NASCAR drivers dropped a hard R.
Yeah.
That's what this feels like. Like, these are just a bunch of dudes hanging out, going to practice.
3 golf course design companies created 30 original holes that will be played on a competition area approximately 97 yards by 50 yards. The holes will be played in varying order in matches. So you know what it'll be like? It'll be like Holy Moly. Did you ever see the putt-putt show?
With Joe Tessitore and Rob Riggle?
Yeah, the putt-putt show where like randomly they'd be like, oh, we're doing the hole now where you have to putt it through and then run through the big windmill. So there are all these unique holes. Each team will field 3 players for the matches. You tee off on a real tee box. You hit your approach shots out of surfaces that approximate either fairway or rough or sand, and then you putt on a revolving artificial turf green. This sounds like it's going to be so stupid, and I cannot wait to make my wife watch some of it tonight. I can't wait.
I hope you enjoy.
I hope I enjoy too.
We're not even going to see Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy
not
play
tonight. We're not,
because Rory plays for Boston Common Golf, and Tiger plays for Jupiter Links Golf.
If you want to see Jupiter Links Golf Club, their season opener against the Los Angeles Golf Club is next Tuesday.
And looks like Boston Common doesn't play till the 27th.
Yeah, if you want to see Rory with his teammates Keegan Bradley, Adam Scott, and Hideki Matsuyama, yeah, they don't play until, that's a big one. That's Monday night golfing. Monday night golf, Jupiter Links and Boston Common Golf, Monday, January 27th. I will be there no matter what.
Hey, it's Rory versus Tiger.
Before we take a break, I want to tell you about my friends at Great Life here in Topeka. Look, we all know the roads aren't in awesome shape right now, which means the sidewalks aren't in awesome shape, which means you're probably already deciding that your New Year's commitment to getting in better shape, going out for a run or a walk, you're saying, I can't do that. You're making excuses already because of the weather. Don't make excuses. Get out to one of the Great Life fitness facilities. They've got 8 of them. They're all outstanding, state-of-the-art equipment, a great way to start pursuing your fitness goals for the new year. Become a member and the membership benefits are outstanding. I'm an all-inclusive member. I get great membership benefits, especially on the golf side, which we'll talk more about when the weather does get nice. But visit greatlifetopeka.com for more information about the Great Life Fitness facilities. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, Royals made a move yesterday, and we're going to talk about what it means for the Royals rotation moving forward. That's next on 580 Sports Talk. .34 and 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer, kicking it with you. Got about 20 more minutes of show before we hand things off to the K-State Sports Network. Wildcats and Cowboys in men's basketball coming up in just a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit more before we get off the air today. But wanted to follow up on the news that broke while we were doing headlines on yesterday's show. The Kansas City Royals have agreed to terms on a contract with Michael Lorenzen, who returns to the Royals after making a 7-appearance cameo with them after being acquired at the trade deadline last year. Jeff Passan has more details on the contract. It is a $5 million guarantee for 2025, and then a mutual option for next season where it is a $12 million option and the buyout is $1.5 million. So if you're seeing it termed as a 1-year, $7 million deal, that's the guarantee, essentially.
Man, as long as he doesn't completely suck, $12 million for a second year is not bad.
No, particularly for like if the going rate for a starting pitcher. And honestly, if Lorenzen has a really good year, I would bet he would opt out.
That's what I was going to say. It's a mutual.
Yeah, he would.
Good point.
Yeah, so he would decline the option potentially if he has a really good year, which would be one of those good problems because that means he probably helped the Royals return to the postseason. Now, Passan points out in his article at ESPN.com that the Royals are a little lefty-heavy in their bullpen and could certainly benefit from Lorenzen's experience as a reliever. You've got Lucas Erceg, John Schreiber. He doesn't mention Hunter Harvey, but I do think Harvey's in line for a bounce back if he gets healthy. And then they are a little bit lefty-heavy with Bubic and Zerpa and Lynch. But I think that the future for Lorenzen is in the starting rotation. I want to ask you guys what you think the significance of these two numbers is. Two numbers, 1,428 and 868.1. Do you know what those numbers represent?
One, I'm going to assume is innings pitched.
868.1. Yeah, I mean, that's got to be innings pitched.
Both numbers are innings pitched. The Royals in the regular season pitched 1,428 innings. 868.1 or 868 and a third of those innings. The notation is strange, but if you see in an innings context a 0.1, that means a third of an inning. They don't use 0.3 and 0.67
repeating
refer to 0.6 with the line over it. They don't do that. It's 0.1, 0.2, and then it goes back to zeros. Anyhow, 868 and a third innings. That's how many innings the top 5 starters for the Royals covered last year. That's about 60% of the innings that were covered by the same 5 guys.
I feel like that's a winning ball club for you.
It absolutely was. You saw that was a winning formula for the Royals. It's also really rare. Does not happen super often. So I don't think the Royals can count on getting that many innings from whoever their top 5 starters are right now. In my mind right now, the top 5 starters, Cole Reagans, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, Michael Lorenzen, and for me, it's Alec Marsh. I think those are the 5 starters. You're a little right-handed heavy there. Your only lefty is Reagans at the top of it. But that's your front 5 for me. That's a lot to ask, 868 in the third innings from your top 5 starters. So you're going to need depth. Their depth wasn't tested last year. That is not typically something that persists. Royals are going to need some other starter innings. And like we talked about yesterday, Brendan, it means that those other guys that they're asking for innings from are guys like Chris Bubic converting back to starting after coming back from Tommy John last year. Mm-hmm. Daniel Lynch IV returning to being a starter after he'd been a failed starter and really only has shown that he can excel at the big league level as a reliever. It's Kyle Wright coming off a major shoulder surgery, a guy who's won 20 games in the bigs, but
missed the whole year.
Had missed an entire season. The idea of those guys, the potential of those guys certainly exists, but you want to be counting less on them and counting more on guys who did give you functional starter innings last season. And the Royals have now built a rotation of 5 guys who have done that with the inclusion of Lorenzen. And if you add in the fact that, look, Lorenzen in his career, he's got a career ERA below 4, sits at 3.99, which is not too shabby. But he's not been a full-time starter in his career other than his rookie season and the last 3 years where he's been. And even then, there's been some relief appearances. So he has maintained that versatility. But like Seth Lugo was a late career conversion to starting from relief, and that's turned out really well. If the Royals have seen something with Lorenzen, if Lorenzen felt something working with the Royals last year that can make him a more effective pitcher, because he was, by any measure, not only more effective than he was with the Rangers, he was as effective over his 28 2/3 innings with the Royals as he's been in any stretch of starting pitching in his entire career. It's a net benefit for the Royals to have this back. We even talked about it before the offseason really got rolling, how much sense a reunion would make for both the pitcher and the team.
Yeah.
Good for the Royals for doing something that makes sense, and good for us for being on top of it. We rarely get these things right.
Yeah, that's very true. No, I love this move overall for the Royals. This is how small market teams, quote unquote, should be operating. You need to figure out what your blemishes are and then do what you can to spend smartly on them. Recognize the players that, the Royals are never going to probably go after players who just don't have a flaw in their game, right? Unless they draft them themselves like a Bobby Witt Jr. Like Seth Lugo, use him as an example. Seth Lugo was old and had only started one season as a full-time starter since he was like 25 years old.
Yeah,
roughly. That's a risk. Like that was we liked the move at the time, but it was undeniably a gamble by the Royals as well. Same thing going back to the well here with Michael Lorenzen. He's been something of a journeyman. He has not always been a perfect player, but with every point you just mentioned there, Dan, it fits what this Royals team has needed, and it fits a smart team building strategy. In terms of bats, they're going to go after too. Jonathan India, not a great play, not a great player, a useful player though. A big step up from the guys they were having bat lead off a season ago. You had some flexibility with your rotation. You can move Brady Singer. You bring in a guy who fills a gigantic gaping hole in your offensive setup and lineup. Smart business. It doesn't have to be always big, flashy business. This is not a big, flashy move, but it's probably one of the more prudent moves that a team of this, again, quote unquote, market size is going to make all offseason.
Yeah. And what Ann Rodgers lays it out in her story that,
for MLB.com,
that it kind of assumed I guess it's not her story. Another story I saw made it seem like Lorenzen wasn't assumed a fourth starter.
Well, that's the benefit you have is his flexibility. The fact that he does have experience working in relief, but he's been a 130-plus inning guy each of the last 2 years, and 150 2 years ago, 130 in a third, and it would have been more if not for the hamstring injury that cost him most of September last season because he had really plugged into that rotation nicely. If there's more to build on with that 6-start run or 5-start run, really, that Lorenzen was on right after he was acquired by the Rangers, where he pitched into an ERA below 2, then it gets to be a really interesting addition and probably a bargain.
I agree.
If he can continue to build on that form. We'll take a quick time out here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, K-State, Oklahoma State tonight in Big 12 men's basketball. We'll give a quick preview on the other side of this timeout on 580 WIBW. .545 on 580 Sports Talk. Shout out to the folks watching on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the YouTube channel. Mark B talking about what we were just discussing, Michael Lorenzen and his one-year pact with the Royals. Royals retaining Lorenzen at those numbers was a great get for them. It's just so nice to be talking about the Royals as a franchise that knows what it's doing. Like, irregardless, that's not a word, regardless of what is happening on the field, that what is happening in the front office is coherent and of a piece with the last thing they did, and not just willy-nilly, we woke up in the morning and let's give Chris Owings $3 million.
Chris Owings.
Bidding against ourselves, let's give Chris Owings $3 million for a year. Like, just being able to talk about a team with a plan is so nice. It's so nice. Long may it continue. Kansas State basketball tonight. You can hear it right here on 580 WIBW FM 1049. Pregame at 6, tip-off at 7 from Gallagher-Iba Arena. What's it nickname, Brendan?
America's favorite wrestling gymnasium.
There it is in Stillwater. K-State, Oklahoma State. We know it's been a rough year for Kansas State. The numbers don't lie. They're 87th in the Ken Palm. Among teams ranked ahead of K-State in the Ken Palm, Lipscomb,
Bison.
George Mason.
Once went to a Final Four.
a Providence team with a losing record.
Probably some
Kim
Sun Belt
English
team.
once got in an argument with Jesse Newell at a game I was at.
I bet that was fun to watch. A bunch of Mountain West teams, like K-State would be mid-tier in the Mountain West in this particular metric. Anyhow, they're 87th in the Ken Palm. That is 20 spots higher than Oklahoma State.
So I'm having a hard time getting a read on this. I've got up a handful of different advanced analytical sites here. K-State would be a slight favorite according to the Ken Palm numbers. Bart Torvik, T-Rank, his metric, favors K-State by a half a point. 0.4 points favors K-State. My guy Boydetology, shout out to Evan, his numbers have Oklahoma State by 1.8 points at home. And the spread favors Oklahoma State by 2.5. I am confused by all of this.
Yeah, I am too. Like,
I mean, to be real, the entire Kansas State basketball team really confuses me too.
no, that's fair.
Yeah.
K-State at their best can beat these guys by double digits. I have no doubt about that. The question is, are we going to see K-State at its best for 40 minutes? Because I just don't know how often we've seen that. We saw it against Cincinnati. We saw it against like Longwood in the holiday tournament. We saw it against Pine Bluff when they scored 120 points. Like, are we going to see 40 solid minutes from K-State? There's no reason for them not to be dialed in after they saw how one bad shooting half harmed them, or 3 bad minutes kept them from winning a road game they should have won on Saturday against a team I think they're better than in TCU. I think TCU is better than Oklahoma State. So I absolutely think K-State can and should win this game. There's no area in which I feel like Oklahoma State is a bad matchup for K-State, except maybe this. They get to the free throw line a lot. They shoot 25 free throws a game. That's 19th best in the country. That is a lot of free throws. Also, they average about 9 steals a game, which is 39th in the country. So they're a gambling team. They go for steals. They get called for a lot of fouls. This could be a gross game. This could be kind of a messy game. Bryce Thompson is somehow still in college.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Bryce.
KU great, Bryce Thompson. 21st in his recruiting class of 2020. Let me see what else the guys in the 2020 recruiting class are up to these days. From the top, NBA, I think. I don't know where Greg Brown is. Terrence Clark died tragically. But yeah, like Cade Cunningham's number 1 in that class. Well into his NBA career. Bryce
Thompson committing to KU was a really big deal at the time.
It was a huge
right
deal.
in the wake of the FBI stuff,
Yeah.
the NCAA infractions case. That was a really big deal. I have nothing negative to say about Bryce Thompson. As a person, as a guy, if you're asking for an objective scouting report, I would probably have a lot of negative things to say, but he can score. He's a bucket. He's not going to really do anything else. He's a bucket.
Caleb Love also a part of that recruiting class as well.
Oh,
Speaking of guys who are still playing in the Jeremy Roach is still playing too, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Isn't he at Duke?
Baylor.
That's right. He left Duke.
Yeah, he left Duke.
What's wild to
Got
me
his COVID year. He's playing at Baylor.
is like there's guys that played football at Marshall where I went to that still played this year. Like
when you were in school?
Like they were sophomores or like redshirted or whatever. Or like I had met them and covered them and interviewed them at some point, and they're like the star of the team in 2024. And I'm like, what?
I
COVID year made everything a mess.
Yes.
don't believe anyone else was a part of this conversation with me the other day. I was here doing it solo. The idea that maybe they'll just get rid of all, or that we'll go to 5 years of eligibility in college sports from 4 to 5, that was proposed last week. John Rothstein reported it. I would accept that on one condition. Red shirts are gone. You have 5 years. You have 5-year clock.
No, I would agree.
And
Yeah.
medical, traditional red shirt, and waiver, nope. No waivers, no nothing. You get free transfers, you get 5 years, that's it.
You get 5 years and then go out and go pro in some other sports.
I could accept that. One other note here. Yes, Kansas State did, in fact, beat Pine Bluff 120-73.
That did happen.
Two things. One, I would wager that Arkansas Pine Bluff is the only team to give up 120 points and also score 120 of their own in a game this season.
Who they score 120 against? You can tell us?
Ecclesia.
Yeah, that's real.
They are not D1, and I don't think NCAA. Also, this is K-State played them before they had their best player, Dr. Bradley.
Yeah. Wasn't he I want to say he was involved in that bad situation there at New Mexico State.
Yeah, so for the purposes of my joke, don't Google Dr. Bradley, New Mexico State, okay? Not good, very bad, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
However, he has played 2 games this season and has scored 65 total points.
Wow.
Dude's going crazy.
Does he have any assists?
He had 7 assists against Alabama State, none against Alabama A&M.
Yeah, that was the J. He had 30 points and no assists in his first game.
11 of 16 from the floor,
Not
8
my-
of 16 at the free throw.
Not my kind of person, but definitely my kind of player.
They did indeed drop the charges against Dr. Bradley.
There were charges at all. Whether
Hey, I mean, if
what is at issue here?
I'm going to get in trouble if I make a joke, I'm just going to drop it.
Yeah, Oklahoma State also stinks shooting the 3 ball, 31% as a team. It's 293rd in the country. It's just nothing that they do particularly well. And this should be a game the Kansas State wins. If Doug McDaniel and Coleman Hawkins play well, K-State can beat anybody.
Give
And
me
certainly,
Cats 74-68.
yeah, I think it
That's a fair score.
probably end up being close unless K-State really shoots the crap out of it. Maybe they do. Maybe they're due some positive regression after they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat Saturday in Fort Worth. But tight one for 40 minutes, but I think the Cats pull it out. Again, pregame coverage coming up in about 7 minutes here on 580 WIBW. We'll take one final timeout, come back with the final word. Let's wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk with a final word. Brendan Dworzinski, go first.
Final word for me today is that it's really not worth our energy to talk about the rest versus rust thing when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. If any team has ever earned the benefit of the doubt for anything, it is the Kansas City Chiefs in the midst of, let's not forget, a dynasty. Right now, we are in the Chiefs dynasty. Don't worry about that. If they do get upset in the divisional round, it has nothing to do with too much rest.
Spencer Dupuis, final word.
Speaking of the Chiefs, well, I don't understand why people are all upset about them doing what they did on Sunday. There's no rule against it, so why not do it? They're doing what's in the best interest of their team, and they weren't throwing the game. They're just playing the game as if they've already locked up everything they could lock up. They're just playing a game that was on their schedule and doing it how they saw fit.
Final word for me today is that, again, I don't like the must-win turn of phrase when it comes to talking about regular season games, but K-State needs about 12 or 13 Big 12 wins. That's a fact. And one of them's got to be this one, because there will be lots of others that are a lot harder to get on paper than playing at Oklahoma State. This is not a good Oklahoma State team. There's nothing they do particularly well. There's nothing they do that should make them a particularly tough matchup for K-State. This needs to be a win. We'll see how K-State snaps back from that disappointing loss in Fort Worth on Saturday. Pre-game coverage coming up in just a couple of minutes. Tip-off at 7. You can hear it right here on 580 WIBW. We'll be back from 3 to 6 tomorrow. Hope you will join us. Thanks for making us a part of your Tuesday today. For Spencer Dupuis and Brendan Dworzinski, I'm Dan Lucero. This was 580 Sports Talk. Good night.